We're live, people. We're live. I'm going to be sharing with you my experiences with gang stalking in Tyler, Texas. Waiting for y'all to show up. I'm sure there's going to be many clan members watching this event. We don't have any viewers yet, but we're just going to wait and see. Anybody in the house yet? Got 5 people watching. You're watching? Let me know. Give me a thumbs up. We're going to be talking about gang stalking in Tyler, Texas. It's been 37 months since I've been overtly gang stalked, and they're pulling out all the stops, and I'm going to fill you in on it, people. Roberta, how do I pronounce your name? Machete? Kind of like machete? Hey, what's up, Roberta? What's up, Roberta? So, Roberta, I want to ask you something. Tell me something about gang stalking. You're from... Hey, yes, how are you? I'm Eric from Maine, suffering from V2K nanoparticles. You're on your mom's account. Okay. The reason I questioned it, Roberta, is because I'm undergoing a lot of gang stalking right now. And that part that says machete, it's just a couple of vowels away from machete, which indicates hacking and all that. And since I'm undergoing an intense campaign of gang stalking, I know that the perps are out there and they're trying to put fear on me. And I'm not worried about it in the least bit. But I'm going to call these perps out. So to let you guys know, until we get some more people coming up, it's going to, we got 8 now, 7, 8, something like that. I'm going to let you guys know I'm a targeted individual. I've been targeted since 2004. And the person that is targeting me, his name is Wayne Morris. He is from Bullard, Texas. He's with the KKK, and he wants me to know that he is going to kill me. He's trying to throw fear, intimidation. He's pulling out all the stops. He's bringing hundreds of people into the fold to try to scare me while I'm in public. With their one headlights, their dim headlights. One headlight's bright, the other one's dim, or sometimes they'll flicker real quick. And there are a lot of people who are wearing the color black. I'm wearing yellow. And I've been at this apartment complex for 5 years, 5.5 years, and I've never been harassed, not one time since I've been here. But in the past 2 or 3 weeks, I've had 2 people with COVID come up and get into my face. One of these guys with COVID has been here 4 or 5 years and he's never said a word to me. And he walks up to me because my trunk is broke on my car and he's hacking his lung up. Hey man, my name is Rocky and I want to help you fix your truck. Ha! spits out a big old loogie on the ground, and I'm backing up. And I immediately perceived that something's not right here, but I wasn't feeling like I was being gang stalked. Number one, this guy, me and him, we have never talked. And I see him many times going up and down the stairway, entering and leaving my apartment. He doesn't even look at me. This campaign of harassment that they're doing right now, this was in the plan. This was in the works for weeks, if not months. So he comes up, he gets in my space, he tries to get up close to me so he can breathe on me. I didn't know it at the time, thought it was benign, but now I've seen him come and go, and the guy doesn't even go, "Hey, Doug, how's it going?" He shook my hand and said, "I'm Rocky." And I thought we were going to be, saying, "Hey, how you doing, man? How's your day going?" It hadn't been that way. It was only that way on that one day. He wanted to get in my face and breathe on me, hoping I would catch COVID. I've got another neighbor that's been here for the entire time I've been here. He's had COVID. He just got over COVID, and he was getting into my personal space. But I will say this, that this guy, before he had COVID, he was always one of those kind of guys that would get close to you, and he had to touch you and get close to make a connection. So I can't say 100% that he's a perp and he got perped out and he was trying to give me COVID. I always try to go with a coincidence before I go, that's targeting, because you can't live your life like that. We got 12 people in the house. I got a neighbor 2 doors down who's been doing a lot of mimicry with me. And what she's been doing, and now she's turned out. She's like DB says, she's a bot. You ever watch the Chappelle Show? You ever watch the Chappelle Show and see that one dude doing that's part of the skit of the Chappelle Show. That's a bot. Well, for the past couple of months, this lady has been mirroring me, and I wasn't catching on to it. And mirroring is simply something where someone reflects like your character traits, your behaviorism, your mannerism, the way you speak. They reflect your past history, your work history, how you interact with other people and whatnot. And see, what these bots don't realize is once they have been turned out, we can see them for who they really are. So she got perped out. She got turned out. She got turned into a bot. And she was thinking the whole time, this guy doesn't know that I'm a bot. Doesn't know that I'm a bot. So what does she tell me? She tells me, number one, oh, I drive for Waiter and DoorDash. Well, I drove for Waiter and DoorDash. Oh, I was a nurse. Well, I was a nurse for 11 years. Oh, I'm in pain management therapy for my lower back. I was in pain management therapy for my lower back, and I took pain meds until I got off of them. And this is a recurrent thing. It's recurrent. Then she tells me, out of the clear blue sky, it's none of my business. She tells me, I also have a terminal heart condition. I didn't know what to say. I fell for her. And then after we ended our conversation, I went to my home, into my apartment, and I said a prayer for her. I don't remember what the prayer was, but I said, Lord, please be with this woman and her heart condition. Well, guess what, people? I got a heart condition. I don't know that it's terminal. These people know my medical records. So she's been mimicking me. She brought up the fact that she was in a pain management clinic in Dallas, and so she's quit going to them. And so now she's going to she went to a pain management clinic in Tyler, which is one that I went to. And she brought up the fact, she goes, but I no longer go there anymore. And I go, okay. She goes, because there's a male nurse there, there's a dick. And I go, yeah, he is a dick. And he was a dick. He was a dick towards me. And I went along with her on that. But what she doesn't know is that, yeah, he was a dick towards me, but we made peace. You know, that's what I do. I make peace with people. He was a dick, and I just wrote it off as he had a bad day. He's stressful. He can't sleep. He was telling me, man, I have problems with insomnia and yada, yada, yada. And we made peace. And that's what I do with people. So she's sitting there playing me up, and she's mimicking everything about me that she's been told about me. And check this out. I put this in a video that I made the other day. I walk out my door the other day, and I want to tell you this. I've heard of same time entry and exit. I've been a TI since 2004, and if it's ever happened to me, I was not aware of it. But check this out. I go to my door the day before yesterday. I open it up. I walk outside with the intentions of going to the rail, leaning over the rail and looking at the beautiful pool, look out on the tennis court, and just enjoy the Lord's day. The moment I opened my door, this is what she did. I am going to do exactly what she did. The very moment I open my door, she opens her door. She walks around like this is the direction of the door, and this is what she does. This is how she does it. 1, 2 steps, look at me, walks around 360, and she goes back into her apartment. I raise my hand to God that is my sworn testimony. Something else that I'm going to talk about that has been difficult for me to really understand is this thing about the hive mind. And I really don't understand it, and I just kind of stay away from that. But after seeing her do this, we got 18 people. Great. Stick around. Some interesting stories. I've already had some experiences today. I've heard about this hive mind thing, and I stay away from it because I really don't know what it's about. But I can tell you, reflecting back about 4 or 5 years ago, I was hanging out with some really close friends. I mean, close friends that I've known for 40 years. One of them have since passed on. We were hanging out, and we were going to stay at this one friend's house because we were drinking, and we didn't want to drive after we got through drinking. And I tell you, 2 of these guys were at the kitchen sink, and I was probably about 15, 20 feet away, and I was blown away by what they said. And I know that these guys would never, ever attack me or do me any harm. But as they're at the kitchen sink, it's like they turned into robots. One says to the other, yeah, I'm going to get him. I'm going to punch him in it. I'm going to punch him in his kidney. I only have one kidney. The other one's like, yeah, we're going to beat him up. These are not the kind of friends that would prank me like this. I have never, ever in my entire life observed them ever getting close to anything like this. I've never told anybody about this. I've also seen an instance where a family member was being very, very, very peculiar and very strange. I don't know what it was that I can't recall because it's been many years ago, but it was totally out of character. What these 2 guys did was out of character. What that lady did, that wasn't normal behavior. Looking at me and then twirling around 360 and walking back into your home, that's not normal. So this is a theory. I'm speculating. And I can't believe that I'm saying this because I am a man of logic, reasoning, and I understand the principles of psychology. And the things that I am witnessing, especially with the remote neuromonitoring, are blowing my mind. Totally blowing my mind. So when this lady acted like she was out of her mind in doing this, It blew my mind. I want to show you something. If you watch my previous video, I talked about the pill bottle being turned upside down by the pharmacist, sitting it up on the counter. I've been in this Walmart pharmacy hundreds of times. I know the pharmacist. I know her demeanor. I know how she always is. She's always, always, always pleasant, cordial, kind, helpful. And then when I walked in the other day, her eyes are shifting. They're rolling around in her head. I don't know if she's been perped out, or perhaps there is some technology that's getting in her head. But she takes one prescription, sets it on the counter upside down. I've been in there hundreds of times. I go in there multiple times every month to pick up my prescriptions, and they never even sit the prescriptions down on the top counter. They're working behind the counter, and then when they get through, they put it in that little sack, and then they go over here and they set it to where the pharmacy tech can pick it up and then take it to you. I wanted to use my cell phone to do this video, this live stream, but evidently, I hate to say this, the perps have screwed my phone. There's nothing on my phone that will let me go live. You see all these icons up here? The live icon is gone. I cannot go live on my phone. And I have YouTube and YouTube Studio installed. I tried to go live through Zoom, and the features in Zoom have been disabled and they're not there. And I went through all the videos on Zoom, how to do it, and these guys have taken the capability for me to go live out of my phone. Getting back to the prescriptions, if I could take my computer over here and show you what's laying on the countertop, I will tell you, for the past 30 years when I began taking medications and when I became a nurse, and this is something that I only do and I've never seen other nurses do. When I used to do medications and set up, it's called setting up medications. You got your pills over here, and what I would do is I'd take a pill out, put it in a little thing, and I would turn it upside down and set it on the counter like this. To me, setting it upside down, I will look at that and I'll already know that pill has been dispensed. You don't have to mess with it anymore. When I take medicines, PRN, which means as needed, and I don't document that I took Tylenol or I took Aleve or I took something for dyspepsia, and I don't want to write it down, what I'll do is I'll take a couple of Tylenol and then I will take and set it upside down. And that will let me know that even if I forgot that I took Tylenol today, I'll come back in during a break from driving and delivering, and I'll look and I'll go, that's right, I did take a couple of Tylenol today. So this remote neuromonitoring is absolutely off the hook. You can go back and look at my videos and hear me say that it is real, but I don't think they can see what you see in very clear resolution. Probably they can hear pretty good, but clear resolution, I just don't think about that. But for anybody through remote neuromonitoring that knows I take my pill bottles and set them upside down and then have that pharmacist, and you go back to look at my previous video that I just uploaded. I took a picture of her. She's over here in the left frame, and you can see the pill bottle upside down. She has never one time out of the hundreds of times she has filled my prescriptions, ever set them up here on the counter. Never. Lo and behold, this time, she not only sets it on the counter, she sets it upside down. If I could bring my camera over here to my countertop, you'll see my medications. And you'll see that there's a couple set up upside down. This is being perpetrated by Wayne Morse of Bullard, Texas. Bullard, Texas. He's with the KKK. He doesn't want me to say this. He thinks he's going to intimidate me. He thinks he's going to make me be silent. I've been told over and over and over and over and over and over and over, he knows a lot of people, and he does. He knows law enforcement. He knows people in the medical community. He knows people all over Cherokee County and all over the state of Texas and all over the United States. He is a very powerful and influential person. And he thinks that I'm going to be silent about this. Another thing they're doing, they know how observant that I am. I noticed, before I noticed the targeting ramping up, I noticed that there was in public a lot of people wearing black clothing. I live in Texas where it's very, very hot. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to know that if you have a black car and it's a hot, sunny day, you touch that black car, it's hot. You know, if you wear a black t-shirt on a hot, sunny day, that t-shirt's going to pull the heat to you. I try to wear light clothes in the summertime, like today. It's hot. I don't want to go out with a black t-shirt. I'll go out with a black t-shirt when it gets cool, but not during the summer because it's hot. So what I've been observing around me is people wearing a lot of black clothing. My neighbors walking their dogs in black clothing. I'm an observant person. You know, there's people who live in New York, when they take a little walk and they go out to the park in New York, they'll just sit. They'll sit on a park bench and for hours. They'll watch people. They'll watch man and woman holding hands. They'll think that's beautiful. They'll see someone over here walking their dog. They'll see someone over here feeding the pigeons, and they're people watching. And that's what some people do. They like to watch people. You like to observe people and their behavior. Well, I'm kind of like that too. As a matter of fact, when I watch a movie, do you know what I look at in a movie? I'll look at the main thing that's going on. But let's say I'm watching a Western and the camera guy he's in the back of the truck while the horse is leading the cart, and someone's riding shotgun and someone's whipping the horse, and they show the road in front of the scene. You know what I look for? I look for the tire tracks from where the cameraman is riding in the back of a car. I've even seen a couple of Westerns where you see a plane fly above. I just think things like that are neat. So I pick up on odd things. And I've been noticing that these people are wearing a lot of black clothing. And I'll tell you why. And they know that I will pick up on it. What does black symbolize? It symbolizes death and mourning. When you go to a funeral, what are you supposed to wear? Black clothing. My previous video, I knew that I'm being gang stalked, and every time I go pick up a delivery at a Walmart, I know someone's going to be spotting out there. And spotting is simply someone there in a vehicle that is waiting for you so they can get on their phone and say, yeah, he's here, he's headed that direction. This is nothing new. I've been observing spotting behavior since day one. I caught a spotter today with fake tags, paper tags on the back of his car, and no tag on his front car. I'll be uploading that. In the state of Texas, and his back tags were expired. Let me go ahead and put his license plate number out there for you. This guy was in a white GMC pickup. He fit the same old good old boy, country boy profile of your local KKK. I've been harassed by these people in public many, many, many times. And they all share the same characteristics, the same look. They look like the kind of guy that you'd like to have a beer with, sit back, toss back a beer, and just talk about football. But they're all wrapped up in this Klan thing. And all of these guys are loyal. They're loyal to their leader. They're loyal to the man who is trying his best to kill me. And I'm going to get back to this other story in a minute. But here's his license plate, 155607F, expired September 2021. White GMC SUV. This was at today at Super One on Troop Highway. Today is Sunday, the 10th of October, 2021. And the guy had no front license plate. In the state of Texas, you have to have a front license plate. It's required by law. Immediately, when I left the store, I was like, there's somebody going to be waiting for me. There's going to be a spotter. I know it. So as I leave the store and I'm walking towards my car, I see a white GMC SUV. He's pointed in my direction, meaning he's got eyes on me. And I see these people all over town. I put 112,000 miles on my car in Tyler, Texas. I know the lay of the land. I know what is supposed to be where. I know when it's odd for a car to park this way and odd for a car to park that way. And I pay particular attention to white vehicles. Do you know why? Because that's the color that the Klan drives. Do you know how I know? Because I had a relationship with someone who was in the Klan and they spilled the beans on it. They didn't tell me we drive white vehicles, but they let me know that they were in the Klan. And now that relationship is over, and I'm being harassed by white vehicles everywhere I go, one day out of curiosity, I call the FBI. And I go, I got a question for you. Is it true that the Klan drives white vehicles? And he goes, yes, it is true. What else do you want to know? I said, that answered my question. I cannot count how many times these guys follow me, give me dirty looks. They're on the phone. They got one of these things in their ears. White guys normally are not chitty chatty. Oh, I got to be on the phone types. That's just not part of old middle-aged white culture. But before I get into this, I want to tell you something else. The other day, and I was about to tell you this, and this is in my previous video. The other day, I was driving to Walmart, going to pick up an order that I got. My phone is hacked. They're waiting for me. They know where I am at all times. My phone is hacked. I just got through reinstalling Windows on this computer. I reformatted the hard drive on this computer, and both of them had the same malware on it. It is on the master boot record. And when you hack a computer by the master boot record, that is malware that links your computer to give someone else remote access. So I'm certain that my phone has this. So I'm driving and I go, before I pull into the parking lot, I go, there's going to be a spotter. There's going to be street theater. There's going to be a skit. I know it. I know it. I know it. Sure enough, I pull in and I see a blue SUV about 100 yards down the way. I got my camcorder out. I got my phone out. I'm doing this all the way. Videotaping this guy. Got his license plate number. Got the whole thing. You know what he's doing? Let's say this is his steering wheel right here. He's got a cowboy hat to obscure his face, and he's leaned into the steering wheel. Knowing that I'm an observant person. I'll interpret this the way it's meant to be interpreted. The guy was implying that I'm going to die in my car. Because here's the deal, people. I know what's normal in a Walmart parking lot. I've only gone there a million times. I know if someone's sleeping in their car, that's sleeping. This is sleeping. That's sleeping. This is sleeping. Leaning up against the steering wheel, you're either dead or you did a shot of heroin. And if that guy did a shot of heroin, he sure as hell recovered 3 minutes later. Because after I picked up those groceries, he was gone. He was parked, pointing in my direction in which I was coming from. That's what these spotters do. When I'm going down a highway, and let's say I'm going out into the country, into White House, Texas, where Patrick Mahomes is from, you know, Kansas City, quarterback Patrick Mahomes, his family only lives five miles from where I live. So when I'm headed in that direction, I'll pass by little churches and places that's got parking lots. And normally when I'm not under surveillance, there's nobody there. And what's normal for people when they get a phone call or they got a text or they want to talk to someone, they pull over as soon as they can. And when they pull over, they're not concerned about the orientation of how they're pulled over. They just want to pull over so they can start texting. Well, these people, when they pull over, what they do is, if the road is going this way and I'm coming this way, they make sure to back their car up to where they're facing the highway. They're facing the highway. And I'm catching these people in droves doing this. You know, used to, I said, I don't care what you do. If you want to perp me, I could care less. If you light your ass on fire and run around like a spotted ass ape on fire, I don't care. I'm not going to videotape it. But you know what? I've had a change of heart. I said, I am going to record this to show people what this really is. I have got photographs, video evidence. I go down the road and I've been seeing, here's what I'm seeing. The one headlight, I'm not so much sold on the one headlight because anybody can have one headlight. That's a normal occurrence. But what I'm seeing now is something very, very odd. It's the right headlight is bright and the left headlight is dim. Prior to my targeting, I never saw that. And if I saw that 20 or 30 years ago, both headlights would be dim because the generator or the alternator would be bad on the car. But I am seeing that in record numbers. I'm not really paying attention to the one headlight. But that one headlight really bright and the one not so bright. And then something that I've been catching with my camera is these people are flashing they got their lights on, but they turn them off real quick and turn them back on. Off, on, really, really quick. And I thought a couple of times that they're not flashing their headlights. It's just there's an interruption in the circuit. Off, on. I mean, nobody could flash their headlights off and on that quick because they're going dim and then coming back to normal. And I got that on videotape numerous amount of times. That's not normal. What else can I tell you? I can tell you right now, I would rather be watching the Cowboy game. It kicked off at 3:20, and I'm going to get to that game here in a little bit. I'm going to tell you, people, that the technology is far more advanced than I ever imagined and dreamed it could be. I'm going to tell you another little story. And this really doesn't have anything to do with gang stalking. I was testing YouTube and I was testing Google because I've heard that when you talk about things, it may end up in your Facebook feed or it may end up in your YouTube feed. And so I was saying to my phone, boy, I sure would like to have a Corvette Stingray. And I was wanting to see if that would show up in my YouTube feed on my television, because I watch YouTube on my television. And I tell you, these people are mob deep in this town, and they are all lined up with this Klan dude. There's a car dealership that's been here ever since I've been here for 31 years. There is Troop Highway. There's a little bit of green grass. There's a sidewalk, green grass, and then there is a brick partition wall that goes up about 7 or 8 feet, and then his dealership is on the top. This is where he keeps his cars, all out through here. I have never seen in all my days that man take a car and park it in front of the dealership, because there's no place to park except for the sidewalk. Let me illustrate what I am about to show you. Here's the dealership. This is the dealership. It's like 6 feet above the sidewalk area on top of an embankment. This is the sidewalk. This is the grass. This is the grass about 2 feet before that sidewalk wall. And then over here's the road. This guy parks a Corvette in the middle of the sidewalk that is pointed in my direction. Like it's over here. When I leave out of my neighborhood, I take a left and I go onto Troop Highway. And then within a couple of 100 yards, his dealership is to the right. And he has never, not one time in 30 years, ever parked a car illegally on the sidewalk. He totally obstructed the pathway of a pedestrian, which is against the law. You can't park your car on a sidewalk. What does he do? The car is pointed towards the road. And you know what kind of car it is? You guessed correctly. It is a Corvette Stingray. These people are trying their best to unnerve me, to put the fear of whatever it is they got, which is nothing but the devil. None of these people are godly men or women. They're not even backsliders. Backsliders, when you sin, you know you're wrong, and you know you're going to be held accountable. I've been a backslider. They know I am a Christian. I am a man of God. I read this book. I read this book, the New Testament, daily, almost daily. With the remote neural monitoring, they know what I read. My TV, let me turn it on for you so you can hear what I've been listening to on this glorious day of the Lord. Well, the video kicked itself out of queue. I've been listening to hour after hour after hour of prayer and worship videos. These people hear me pray all day long to God. They hear me confess my sins all day long to God. They hear me at night when I pray to God. They hear me when I ask God to forgive them for what they do to me. Now, I know some of you people are going to have a hard time forgiving these people. I'm not a preacher, but I am a man of God. I love God with all my heart. And I can tell you this right now with 100% faith and conviction. If I was offered a free pass to get out of this program and join them in what they do, so my torment would end and reject God? Wouldn't happen. The God that I believe in will save me from this. I will only go when he says it's time for me to go. But these people know that when I get in my car, the first thing I say is, Lord, I pray that you keep me safe on the road today. I pray, Lord, that I obey all laws of the land, and I obey all traffic laws. I pray, Lord, that my conscience is clear with you and man and with myself. I see an old man walking down the street with a limp or a cripple. Lord, please bless that person. I pray for people when I see people struggling. They know this. There's no doubt. They know it. They hear me when I pray all day. They hear me when I pray at night. They hear me when I read the scriptures. They hear me when I watch these YouTube videos with Pastor Jeff Durbin, Pastor Joe Kerr, and Living Waters with Ray Comfort. This morning, I made sure that my cell phone was right next to the speaker because I said, if you guys got my phone hacked, you're going to have to listen to the word of the Lord today. And if any of them had one shred of Christianity in them, one shred of belief in the Lord, they would know that man is my brother in Christ. I'm sorry, I can't do this. You want me to come after him for what? Because you catch him looking at porn? Yeah, I've looked at porn. Let me tell you something else. Around around August the 2nd or 3rd, I had a come to Jesus moment. I got down on my knees and I cried. I wept over my sins because I've been in bondage to pornography for most of my life. And Jesus delivered me from it. A couple of 2 or 3 weeks ago, I fell back into it. And the difference between a backslider and someone who is a false convert is when you backslide and you do something sinful, it tears at your conscience because you know that you're accountable to the Lord. But when you're a false convert and you say, oh, I believe in God, you go around getting drunk, partying, and none of it affects you. You look at porn, you sleep around, you do all the sins that everybody else does. Oh, yeah, I'm a Christian. Are you a Christian? Yeah, I'm a Christian. No, they're not Christians. Many of these people may call themselves Christians. But I fell back into sin. And I tell you, I had tab after tab after hundreds of tabs open. And I'm sitting there just taking it all in, feasting on it. And one of the things, I'll be totally open with you. Some of you are brothers and sisters. Some of you aren't saved. And I will tell you something that I probably shouldn't tell you. But I'll tell you in hopes that maybe it'll lead you to the Lord. Because I want to be truthful and honest with you people, as I have always been on this channel. One of the lusts that I have, and I don't understand it, is lesbians. And I have seen this play out before in skits and street theater. I've had women come up to me when I was at the homeless shelter in 2007. I had no place to live. I had to live in a homeless shelter and room up with 4 or 5 other guys while I'm trying to get back on my feet as a nurse and ride a bicycle a couple of miles every day to and from the shelter to work and then back to the shelter. And when I was there, There were these girls that was holding hands, and they're getting up next to me, and they're doing the directed conversation. And directed conversation is simply somebody that wants to let you know what their business is, and it is for the benefit of letting you know that their business is being reflected as a part of your targeting. It could be, they could be talking about the contents of your email, talking about a discussion you had with someone else. But in my case, they know that I'm fond of watching lesbians on porn. And so they get up to me, oh, we're lesbians. And they're just overdoing it. Other day, remember I told you about the black clothing? These two chicks, they're holding hands going into Walmart. And I immediately said to myself, lesbians. That's what I said. Didn't think. Outside of looking at porn, I don't look at other people in lust. I only lust when the porn is before me. When I'm in the street, I see a beautiful woman, I just acknowledge the curves. I acknowledge the figure. I don't undress. It's not that way for me. It's only when those tabs are open. So they're walking hand in hand. They look at me and they're wearing all black. They're not wearing goth stuff. They're wearing like black scrubs. And they're holding hands. And as soon as they get to the front door, they stop holding hands. They walk a few feet and then they separate. The skit was over. It was done. Had this been hardcore lesbians that were truly in love with one another, which I pass no judgment, they would have continued to hold hands and shop because they're lovers. But they were wearing the black to let me know that black is symbolic of death and a funeral. And they were holding hands, which is symbolic of the pornography that I have looked at. This is absolutely insane, people. It is totally insane. Let me tell you something else. I told you about my crazy neighbor who's been doing a lot of mimicry, and I've seen mimicry a lot in targeting. I've seen a lot of mimicry. I'm going to pull my folder up. Hold on a second. I've got a folder on gang stalking with all my notes. If it's around here somewhere, it's probably in my briefcase where a lot of my research is. A lot of notes. Let me see if I can pull up this folder on gang stalking, and I'll share something with you. But I'm going to also share something else with you. Should be in here somewhere. My folder on gang stalking. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. This is research, journals, notes, license plates, names, dates, addresses, descriptions of people. I'm going to pull from this in a minute. What I want to tell you right now, we've got 38 people in the room. I have been in this apartment complex for 5.5 years. I moved here in February of 2016, and it has been a blessing to live here because people normally can't pull up to my apartment and do noise campaigns on me without someone calling the law on them, because I got neighbors next to me and underneath me, and that's something they used to do at other places. So it's kind of hard to do that and get away with it. I have not felt that anyone has been moving in next to me to perp me. I haven't felt that. This guy, there's like 5 people that's perped out that I know for certain. And in the past couple of days, I cannot count how many people have been wearing black to walk their dogs, wearing black leaving their apartment, wearing black to get in their car. It's just unusual, very unusual. And what really makes it very, very, very unusual is I live in the great state of Texas, where it's like Africa hot here. People in Texas know that if you wear a black t-shirt with that sun beaming down on you, it's going to get hotter. That black pulls heat. That's why I'm wearing a light colored t-shirt right now. It's because I went out today and I didn't want the sun to focus on me. I wanted to reflect back so I could remain as cool as possible. But I got a neighbor down here. I spoke to him a couple of times. I tried to be neighborly. So I got a neighbor down here, and this guy's got a little limp. I'm not making fun of him. He's got some type of medical problem, and I can't do his thing, but his knees are kind of like bowed in, and he's obviously on disability because he doesn't work. And I've never said anything bad about him. I've probably prayed for him a time or two. I don't recall. But guess what? Guess what? About 3 days ago, and if you guys have been watching my videos, in my first video, how a targeted individual is profiled, I talked about how they will collect your trash from the curb and put it into their car. I've seen this happen. This makes the third time that it's happened. My next door neighbor's making noise. Let me see what's going on. Maybe he is hammering something or something. This guy next to me, I've had no problems with. He doesn't seem to be a perp at all, so I'm going to disregard that. He's been here for a long time. So the other day, I got 2 heavy sacks. I mean, there's not much left in it. I'm going to put it back in the trash can. But they were both full, and they were so heavy that it elongated this cord. And I had 2 sacks. I take them, I put them on my car, and then I take them and I hurl them up into the dumpster. 2 days ago, and this guy, I got him on video. I don't have him on video toting my trash. I should have gotten the camera, but for whatever reason, I let it slide. He's walking to his apartment, and he's having a hard time carrying like 40 pounds of trash. 40 pounds, it's the same bag, the same drawstring. It wasn't red drawstrings. It wasn't a white trash sack. He's got my trash. So he's been perped out. Now, why do they do this? Number one, and I'm trying to look at it from all the angles. Number one, it could be just for the visual aspect of disturbing me. Oh, they're digging in my trash. And then they take the trash and they do nothing with it. Or number two, he could have been taking the trash and not knowing that it was mine, but he had to know it was mine because he had to sift through it to find that it belonged to me. He just couldn't arbitrarily pick, well, I'll just grab these 2 sacks of trash and go back to my apartment. Nobody does that. He was told, you need to go, when this guy dumps his trash, we're going to tell you, when he dumps it, then you need to go out to the dumpster, get his trash, make sure his name is on it, take it back to your apartment, and then we'll call you later and we'll arrange a pickup time. So why do they pick your trash? I can tell you this. I've watched a lot of videos about the FBI, about detectives, forensic files and whatnot, and I can tell you that that is a way to profile someone who is under suspicion. Let's say you got a guy who's a criminal. He lives in this house over here. Do you know, like in big cities like in Dallas and Houston, that the detectives has a yard full of vehicles they can use in surveillance operations? They've got a Corvette, they've got a hatchback, they got this, they got that. They even have dump trucks to make it look like it's part of the city dump sanitation department. They even got the uniforms and whatnot. and they know what days his trash goes out. So if they got John Doe over here under surveillance and he's setting his trash out, and they want his DNA and they want to see what he's throwing away, because your trash tells a lot about you. They will get a requisition for that truck. They will suit up as similar garb as what the local trash sanitation department does. They'll get in the truck, they'll go pick up that trash, and maybe pick up trash before a little bit and then after a little bit to make it look like they're legit, and then they'll haul ass back to the police department. Then they'll take that trash, they'll get out of those uniforms, they'll get into a hazmat suit, they'll put gloves on, they'll put a respirator on, they'll put glasses on, they'll put a mask on, and they'll put boots on, because they don't want to contaminate the evidence that they're about to sort through. Because if there's any biological evidence in there, they don't want their hairs, they don't want their dandruff, they don't want anything to obscure that. So they set things out like, oh, it looks like he's on heart medicine. This is a bill for his electric. This is a past due notice. This is his voter registration card. And that's all legit. And I applaud the police departments for doing this. I applaud the FBI and everyone who is a good, reputable officer of the law. I commendate them for doing that. But many times in this gang stalking stuff, you've got private contractors who work for PI firms who are previous FBI, previous law enforcement, and they know how to go through someone's trash and then sort things out. They put it on a big table that's got like a trash bag that's taped. And they put everything in its place. And then they go through, and as they're going through it, one person identifies things, another person takes a photograph, and another person takes notes. Because after you get through with all this stuff, this helps you in your case that you're trying to build against someone. Now, in the case of the targeted individual, this may give them more insight about how you think, what you eat, what you do, what you don't do, the medicines you take, the bills you owe. Everything that they can find out about you is advantageous to them. I cannot count how many times this skit has played out. The other day, I pull up into this other Walmart and see the people that they perp out, these lame pawns, they're not really gang stalkers. They get suckered into this. Some of these people don't even know what they're doing. Someone just comes up, hey, that guy, that driver dude with short hair, that old short dumpy dude, yeah, well, you know, he committed a crime, or he likes them, you know, underage people. They'll lie about you. They'll say whatever they got to say to win these people over. And so they will get them on their side. And so what this guy does is I pull my car in. Let's see how many people we got. We got 40 now. That's pretty good. We got 40 people. I pull my car into the parking space. I call the store. I let them know what bay number I'm in. I let them know who I'm there to pick up. And this guy, I'm going to call him Gumby. Not too bright. I've dealt with Gumby many times. And he never, ever in the previous times acted like Gumby. But this is when I'm starting to realize that the landscape is changing. Things around me are starting to seem like targeting again. It's been 37 months. So I pull in, my trunk is open, and Gumby is training a new associate on how to take things out of the cart and put them in the trunk. And this guy is just, he's over dramatic. He's not good at what he's saying. He's not good at selling anything. And he's trying to sell me fear. And I don't listen to half of it anyway. But what he's saying to this other person is, and he's trying to be loud so I can hear him, but it's kind of loud because there's like this big AC unit, one of these, you know, ones for Walmart, like they're huge and they're very loud, and they're usually encased by a wall of, you know, see-through concrete, you know, those bricks you can see through. And it's making all that noise and I can't hardly hear it. But I hear him say, when a driver pulls in, you need to know everything about that driver. You need to know his license plate number. You need to know everything there is to know about that driver, because even though it may be a long shot, 1 in a billion chance, he could be a criminal. And you need to know that. It was something along like that. Now the chick who he's training, she's not in on this. And I can tell because she's looking at him and she's like, what the hell is this guy saying? I can look at her mood, her demeanor. She's not in on it. He's sitting there being an actor for me, who's his audience. I've got a video where I talk about when people start doing the directed conversation to you, the best thing to do is leave. Don't stick around. Don't listen to it, because they're trying to get it in your head and they're trying to rile you up. I'm starting to think that that was bad advice, because what I want to do now is I want to get as much of this on tape as possible. And they're going to continue to send these Gumbies out, these bots, these mindless people, and I'm going to continue to collect evidence. Now, I was going to talk about this earlier. Last night, when I was driving down the street, I think I just did a delivery and I was coming home, and I was saying to myself, look for the spotters. The spotters are always people in cars parked in such a way they can see you as you're going. Spotters don't park with their rear view mirror to you. They park so they can watch you come down the road and get on the phone and tell people your whereabouts. So I see a guy in a white truck, typical Klan member. He's a spotter, and I circle back around, get his license plate number, and I wasn't seeing much behind him, but behind him about 75 yards was this old dude in his late 70s, mid 70s, early 80s, and there was another dude who was over here by Caesar's Pizza, but he was so far away from cars and everything else, and he had his phone out. It was like, why are you 50 feet away from your car, 50 feet away from Caesar's Pizza? There's no noise to interfere with your conversation. They were there. They were spotters as well, because they know that by now that I'm circling these spotters, I'm getting them on camera, and I'm taking their pictures. So this old white dude, and I'm going to ask you, how many old white dudes in their 70s go around wearing these Bluetooths? How many white dudes have you seen in the past 5 years wearing a Bluetooth headset? I can't make it fit. How many white dudes do you see doing this? You people know as well as I do that senior citizens don't care about new cell phone technology. There may be one or two, but the majority of them, like those flip phones, the crickets, they don't care about everything else. This dude was perped out. He was perped out with his little headphone thing. And after I videotaped that other dude, I got mad. And I was saying something about gang stalking, like, why y'all perping me? And the old dude, you know what he did? Which I recognized. This is a kata. You see this in karate and you see it in judo. Cicada. That's what the old dude did. I'm like 30, 40 feet away. He does this. And he's posturing like, you want something? And the other dude, when I turn the camera on him, he turns around. He's like, let me get out of here. I don't want to be on camera. See, what they don't tell these people, these bots, what they don't tell them is that they're complicit in stalking, in a hate crime. And this is a hate crime. Stalking is a hate crime. And the reason these people are participating in this is because this dude in this town is so well known. There are people that probably don't want to have anything to do with this. But they're like, they feel obligated. Like, if I don't go along with this, he may do it to me. And I don't want this to happen to me. And let me tell you, people, there's truth in that. I'll be right back. I need to get my Gatorade. Do you know when I was doing my research on the origins of gang stalking, which gang stalking as we know it, it originated in East Germany. Once the Germans lost the war, they became a Marxist socialistic state. And then they built the Berlin Wall to keep all their people in and to keep the Western civilization out. They didn't want their people reading Hemingway. They didn't want them listening to the Beatles or Johnny Cash. They didn't want them to watch Gone with the Wind or read or see anything or have Levi jeans or be in Western culture at all, because they saw us as evil. This is what our society is trying to gravitate to. We're trying to be a Marxist society. They're trying hard to get there, but we're not there yet. But let me tell you about this. If you wanted to read Hemingway and you got caught with a Hemingway book or a Rolling Stones album, you got sent to the gulag. You got sent to prison. And after that, they had eyes on you forever. And on top of that, they had a nice file on you that they kept. Your home was bugged. Your phone was tapped. Your mail was read before you ever received it. They knew when you did this. They knew when you did this. They knew when you sat down to break bread. They knew what time you woke and what time you went to sleep. And they meticulously documented all these things. And the reason I know that is because the Stasi archives exist. And inside the file of all these targeted individuals is the mundane existence that they went through. But also in these files, listed the type of harassment they received, when they were spied upon, and how they were spied upon. And do you know that it was estimated that 1 in 3 people were informants? That meant your father, your mother, your brother, your sister, the person you went to church with, and the people you played golf with, the people you worked with. 1 in 3 of those snitched on you. And I'm going to tie this back in to what I was saying earlier. Now, there were people who were willfully, of their own volition, complicit in this. They wanted to participate because they believed in their form of government, which was Marxist, fascist, and socialistic. They believed in it. They believed it was for the greater good of East Germany. And there were people that did not want to go along with it. And those that resisted were treated like you and me. They became targeted individuals. They lost their jobs. They lost their career. Their medical whenever they went to see a doctor, they got misdiagnosed. They got prescribed the wrong medication. Everything was orchestrated in their life to destroy their life and ultimately tried to drive them to suicide. And then there's this other type of person, the type of person that did not want to participate in it, the one who was conflicted, the one who was torn. Could have been your brother, could have been your mother or father. But the one that didn't want to lose that paycheck, the one that wanted that promotion because you worked for the government. Everybody worked for the government. Doesn't matter if you pumped gas, you did that for the government. Doesn't matter if you baked bread, you did that for the government. Doesn't matter if you worked in a grocery store, that was a government grocery store. And if someone leaned on you and wanted you to be an informant and snitch or be a bot, you have two choices. Either comply or not comply. There were people that complied that didn't want to comply. I suggest you watch a movie called The Lives of Others. It is a movie about the East German secret Stasi police. I repeat again, it's called The Lives of Others. You can rent it online, less than $5. It's in German, but it's got English subtitles. And the movie is awesome. It's really, really good. Now, it doesn't get into the gang stalking as heavy as what we experience, but it does show the Stasi breaking into someone's home, rearranging things to screw with their mind, and doing other things like reading mail and spying on people and documenting what other people are doing. But there are people, and I just know it. I've sensed it before, that were participating in my stalking, and I could tell they really didn't want to do it. I could sense that. I could pick that up. And we look at a lot of these gang stalkers and we go, I wish you hell. I hope you rot in hell. I don't wish that on anybody. You know what I want for these people? I want these people to be saved, to know the Lord, and come to the Lord. Because I've tasted torment. I know what it's like to be denied my rights. I know what it's like to be in jail and be perked out for 14 days. And I can't get out of the cell I'm in, and everybody that's in my jail cell is perping me. I know what it's like to not even know what gang stalking is. From 2004 until 2010, I didn't know what this program was. I was chased from Tyler to Chandler, Texas, to Austin, Texas, to Russ, Texas. I left every time, the flight or fight syndrome. I was so afraid of dying because these people were trying to tell me, that's what's going to happen to you, buddy. We're going to kill you. And right now, with these people with all their black clothing and whatnot, they're not coming up going, we're going to do this. They're not saying that. They're like, read between the lines, you chump. We're all wearing black clothing. What do you think that means? What do you think it meant for that cowboy to lean over in his car with his head against the steering wheel? It means we're going to kill you. But back to these people who are informants. If you're godly, if you're a Christian, you know in your heart that you have to pray for them. And I'm going to take a moment to minister to you targeted individuals. I'm going to share my faith of the Lord with you and how I see this. A man once approached Jesus and he said to the Lord, Rabbi or teacher, How many times should I forgive my neighbor if he sins against me? 7 times? And Jesus said, no, not 7 times. I tell you, 7 times 70. What is that? 470 in one day? The Lord wasn't being literal. He was saying, if someone sins against you and asks for forgiveness, forgive them. Remember the story of the woman caught in adultery? These hardcore Old Testament people who live by the law of Moses and the 10 Commandments caught this woman in adultery. They didn't bring the guy who was cheating on his wife, but they dragged her to Jesus. Jesus, it is written in Scripture that if you're caught in adultery, you need to be stoned to death. Jesus was sitting down, playing in the dirt, not really paying attention to him. All these guys encircled this woman who was weeping, who had held her head in sorrow. They were ready to stone her to death. And they were testing Jesus to see what he would say. So it's written that we need to stone her to death. What do you say, Rabbi? Jesus simply said, let he who is without sin be the first one to cast the stone. Those stones were dropped one by one. One by one, they walked away. And they left that sinful woman in the presence of Jesus. And if you know Scripture, you know what Jesus said to her. Woman, where are your accusers? I do not condemn you. Go and sin no more. That's the love, the grace, the mercy of God Almighty and his Son. We are to extend that even to the worst of the worst who treat us awful. And I will further exemplify why we should do that. You know, Judas sold out Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane. Sold him out. Gave Jesus a kiss. And then Jesus was handed over to the mob. The mob took him. They probably beat him up on the way to jail. They got him in jail. They jacked his jaws. They slapped him around. They spat on him. Then Pontius Pilate interviewed him. Pontius couldn't find anything wrong with him. But the people that wanted Jesus dead wanted him dead. And so they had Pontius Pilate crucify Jesus. If you remember correctly, they put a crown of thorns on his head and they drove him into his skull to where he was bleeding. Blood dripping down all over his body. Then they take him and they flog him with a cat of 9 tails. The cat of 9 tails is a whip made of leather cords, and at the end of it, it's got lead, kind of like little claws. They got these little leg claws. It's called a cat of 9 tails because there's 9 claws at the end of this whip. And they flogged him each and every time, ripping flesh off his back. Now, a lot of people say Jesus, he's fake, he's phony, he's just a myth. I would tell you this. Any normal man would have buckled, and any normal man would have used profanity. Taking a beating like that. Use profanity. I know I would. There's no telling what would come out of my mouth. Jesus remained silent. He took that beating. He then took the cross and he carried it as far as he could carry it until he could carry it no more. And they got a man named think Simon or Simeon, to carry the cross the rest of the way. Then they nailed him to that cross, and they erected that cross. What did Jesus say on that cross? Do you remember the words he said before he said it is finished? He said, "Forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do." I forgive these people. I forgive them because my example is before my face. It's in this book that I read. I know the stories. I know the example of Christ forgiving me. So I have to forgive anyone and everyone who sins against me. There can't be no little, well, you sinned a little too hard against me, brother, so I can't forgive you. I'm going to leave you over to God and let him judge you. Do you know how many times I read YouTube comments or Facebook posts, people wishing hell on these other people? Brothers and sisters don't do that. The people of the way do not do that. True godly men and women do not wish harm on these people. I wish for these people to be delivered and saved from this darkness and these chains of bondage. Do you know when I go out every day and I see hundreds, dozens, hundreds of people all participating in this? It's like you put on a special. I know there's a movie where this guy, I can't remember the name of the movie, it's in the 80s. I've never seen it. DB, gang stalking simulation. He puts up clips of this guy, and when he puts the glasses on, he can see the perps. When you're a target, you can see the perps. It becomes very evident. And it blows my mind at the amount of people in my town who are swarming me right now. I promise you, I could go outside with my cell phone and stand beside the road and people would flip me off, and you'd be seeing people after people looking at me on their phone, pointing and being totally conspicuous. There are dozens, if not hundreds of people right now on a chat app waiting for me to go outside so they can disclose my location. If I go out and I go anywhere, I know that whatever route that I travel, there's going to be spotters up and down the road. There's going to be people waiting for me and let me know, we got eyes on you. We're watching you. We hope you die. You know, I'm not worried. I'm prayed up. I told you people earlier, if you've been sticking around for any length of time, that I've been a backsliding Christian. But I'm going to tell you something, and it may not sit well with a few of you, but if you would look at this as an opportunity to get tighter with the Lord and see the goodness that's going to come from this, it will strengthen you. It will strengthen you. But if you're the flock of the Joel Osteen, the health, the wealth, the prosperity, and going, what's Jesus doing for me? What's he doing for me? I'm suffering. Ain't he supposed to be helping us out? It doesn't say that anywhere in the Bible, that that's how it goes. Every single apostle, except John, who was exiled to the island of Patmos, who wrote the book of Revelation, was murdered. Those guys are now in heaven. They knew their fate, But they would not waver. They stayed the course. I am going to stay the course. I am going to let this sharpen me and strengthen me and drive me even closer to the Lord. Because I'm certain that's what the Lord wants. Do you know how many people are like, oh yeah, I believe in God, and then as soon as something bad happens, well, it didn't work out with the Lord, so I guess I'm gonna have to go back to my ways and just make things happen for me. You know, you gotta think it, you gotta believe it, and you gotta manifest it, right? That's what the world says. That's not what Scripture says. When I get weary and I think about all this, I reflect on Psalm 23, the Psalm of David. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. That means the Lord's my shepherd, I don't want him. It means the Lord is my shepherd. He takes care of my needs and my desire. I want for nothing. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. Those green pastures, they're not always green every day. Those still waters are sometimes rushing waters. But in the end, when it's all said and done, it will be so. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in paths of righteousness for his name's sake. God's not ever going to lead you or me down the wrong path to our destruction. He is going to lead us to him for the sake of his name, his righteousness, and his glory. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Do you know how many times I've been in this fight and flight situation? Do you know how many times I packed up my belongings and left my home for fear that someone was going to kill me through all this psychological torture? I can't count how many times. I made a resolve and a commitment the last time I was stalked in 2018, which was 37 months ago. I'm going to stand my ground. I'm going to rely on the Lord. I'm going to lean on the Lord. I'm going to stand my ground. I got my pistol. If anybody tries anything, well, I'll defend myself. I received a lot of threats back then. I received a lot of street theater and skits about how I was going to die. And after 30 days, it was enough. Thou preparest the table before me in the presence of my enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil. My cup runneth over. That right there, that you could say that's all about gang stalking. Because when you rely on the Lord for his salvation, his love, his mercy, his kindness, his forgiveness, and his protection, in the face of all these evil, wicked people, he will prepare a table before you in their presence to show them. That's my child right there. The wicked and the evil, they have no authority over you or me. No one can do anything to you or me as a brother or sister in Christ without the permission from God Almighty. The devil is on a leash. It is written in Scripture that a sparrow does not fall to the ground without the consent of the Father. Now, God Almighty says that that sparrow over there cannot take his last breath and chirp his last chirp until I say so, then that's what it is. The devil has to ask permission to do whatever he does. When he attacked Job, he had to have his permission. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Now, King David wrote this, and he didn't have every single day of goodness. In a sense, he did, because there were people trying to kill him much in the same way that people are trying to kill you and me. But God showed his mercy to David and spared David and delivered David from his trials. And I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. That's a reflection of the fact that once we draw our last breath, our last heart beats, we will go before the Lord. He will look in the Lamb's book of life, and our name will be written in there. And we will spend eternity with the Lord. There will be these false converts, the ones that prayed the sinner's prayer that says, acknowledge that you're a sinner, believe in God, and call upon his name, and you'll be saved. That sounds good, people. That's really a good sounding thing. You know how fake that is? Doesn't say anything about repenting. Repentance is paramount to salvation. You have to be born again. I know it says in Acts, call upon the name of the Lord and be saved. But it's just not that one thing. And I'm not trying to add many things to it. But true salvation means true worship of the Lord. And if you worship the Lord, you do what he says and you repent. Jesus also said in Scripture that the sum of the law is this: to love your God, your Father, with all your heart, all your mind, and all your soul. Basically, with every aspect of your life, love and honor God. Worship him. And the other thing is this: to love your neighbor as you love yourself. If you can't do those two things, you're not a Christian. If you're struggling with them, if that pierces your heart, you go, I'm not doing that, and it's causing you grief, then you still have a heart. It hadn't been hardened. You got a conscience that hasn't been seared. And that's telling you, I need to work on that. I do need to love these people as I love myself. So what does all this got to do with gang stalking? Let's stop hating on these people. Yeah, I hate what they do. I don't like it. It gets on my nerves. It interrupts my day. But you know what would be awesome? Is if just one of these people would turn away from this wickedness and repent of this and turn to the Lord and renounce this sin and be saved. I wish that on people. I don't wish people to go to hell. Hell is an atrocious place to where once you're there, you cannot get out. There are no second chances. Hell is simply a complete separation between you and God. You get your final wish that you've been wanting your entire life, which was like Frank Sinatra said, I'll do it my way. That's what complete wickedness is. Living your life your way, avenging yourself, harming other people, making people pay, cheating, robbing, stealing, slandering, blasphemy, killing people, murdering people. How many movies have you ever seen about these mafia guys who go around executing people? Once they get through with that, forgive me, Father, I've sinned. I just did a little religious thing. I'm okay with God. God's like, yeah, we're going to let you slide on that. He wasn't a good guy anyway. I needed to send him to hell anyway. I would assume that many of the people who participate in this, some of them are unwilling participants. Some of them have been conned into doing this, and some of them really don't want to do it, but they're not strong enough to get away from it. Let me elaborate. I'm going to tell a little story. When I was a kid, and I was 17, I had a car. I'd been hanging out with some really bad thuggish friends. These guys were pretty bad dudes. I mean, they could knock out grown men at 15, 16 years old. So when I got a car, they would see me riding around the square in little old Rusk, Texas, wave me over. I'm like, what's up? They're like, I need you to take me somewhere. I'm like, dude, I'm going on. Shut the F up. They get in my car and they're like, take me to so-and-so. And I couldn't beat the guy up. There's no way I could beat him up. I've seen the guy beat up a grown man before. And they did this to me over and over and over again. And I was too weak to fight back. Now, as a grown man, full of experience, if someone pulled me over and did something like that to me, I would kindly ask them to step away from my vehicle. And then if they didn't comply, then me and Smith and Wesson would have a talk with them. But I know what it's like to be put in a position where you don't want to comply, but you feel that if you don't comply, something bad is going to happen to you. So I have empathy for some of these people. Some of these people in my apartment complex, they may not want to be doing this. I'm not going to judge them and call them a POS. I'm going to say, well, whatever, and I'm going to pray for you. I know exactly. I know the man's name. I know his address. I know where he lives. And there is not one shred of doubt who is doing this to me. None. Probably out of all the targeted individuals in the world, I am maybe the only one who knows the name of the person who is doing this to me. He let me know it was him. Do you know I have a snapshot of his YouTube page? Not his YouTube, his Facebook page. And you know when you go to Facebook and you look at someone's profile, it shows what movies they like, what books they read, and all this other kind of stuff. I took a snapshot of his page. You know what was on his page? He had the picture of Anonymous, which is the guy in the black suit with the white shirt, the black tie, and a semblance of a head, but no facial features. And do you know what else was on his page? It's only two things. A link to burial insurance. That's his form of psychology to let me know, I know you've been checking out my Facebook page, so I'm going to let you know I'm going to kill you, and I'm with the people who are anonymous. Well, you're not anonymous. Though you may have half of Smith County in your back pocket, I do know this. There are godly men and women in this county who are in the police department, who are in the sheriff's department, who are in the justice department, and who are in every other facet of life around here. And I am certain, I am absolutely certain that in my time of need, my Savior, my Lord, will call upon those brothers and sisters to right the wrongs. And I can tell you, I've been picked up by an ambulance that had corrupted EMS workers in it. And they were talking all the gang stalking nonsense. I went to a hospital one time where everyone around me was talking all that devilish stuff. It blew my mind. And you want to talk about being fearful? It's really fearful. But even knowing that I've been through that I've experienced that, and I've never told you people about that, and I probably never will get into the details and the depth of all this. But it's in here, and it's in other places. It's in thumb drives. It's in hard drives. Other people have it. So when this guy, he finally pulls off his, if it ever happens, he'll be exposed. And do you know the sad thing about this? The real travesty, the real sadness of this? This remote neural monitoring, it's crystal clear. They can hear what I'm saying. They can hear pretty much what I'm thinking. I mean, if they can figure out all this other stuff, it's really, really good. The technology, I'm telling you people, is better. I give it more credit than I've ever given it before. And there was a time like 4 or 5 years ago when I gave remote neural monitoring 0 credit. I said, you can't do that, But you can. It really exists. But let me tell you something. Last night I was trying to make peace with this guy. I spent about an hour, 2 hours having a conversation with my phone, because I know they can hear me with remote neural monitoring, but I know that my phone's hacked as well. There's absolutely no denying that my phone is hacked. When people show up where I'm supposed to be to pick up groceries every single time, and they line the streets in the pathway to my destinations, my phone is hacked. So I sit here and I have a conversation with him. And I tell him, sir, I forgive you. I hold no animosity towards you. I know what this is about. I know exactly why this is about. I disrespected your loved one. I cursed her out. I was under the influence of drugs. I was emotional. And out of our whole entire relationship, that was the only bad interaction I ever had with your loved one. I am so sorry. I ask you forgiveness for this. We never, ever one time yelled at each other. Never. And for this, I'm wrong. And for this, you should be angry at me. You have every right to be angry at me. But sir, I want to let you know, since you destroyed my career in nursing, I've lost an estimated $500,000 to about $650,000 in lost income. I last worked as a nurse in October 2008. Prior to becoming a targeted individual, I had letters of commendation every single month that I worked at East Texas Medical Center. They would have a staff meeting, and we would go over the progress and the flaws of giving and providing care to our patients, because customer service is really important in nursing. So we would review our positives and our deficits. I was a brand new nurse, and from the first month I was there until the last month I was there, 19 months later, every single month, people would, once you get discharged from the hospital, and any of you that have been in a hospital know that you get a "How did we do" card that kind of resembles something like this, like an index card. Somewhere on it goes, was there anybody that went out of their way to really help you? And my name showed up on that card more than any other nurse every single month. And I was unaware that people were tracking and commenting on how I took care of people. Now, with that said, I want to let you know something that I'm no saint. I got the idea of going into nursing in the late 80s because I would open up the Houston newspaper. I was going to school for automotive technology, which that didn't pan out. But I kept opening up the newspaper page after page after page, hiring nurses, hiring LVNs, hiring RNs, sign-on bonuses. And I thought, look at all these jobs. Look at the money. If I didn't like working here, I could go work there. And I could get paid a lot of money, sign-on bonuses, and think of all these hot women I could work with. Well, about 4 or 5 years later, I went into nursing school. I got accepted. And I went in for that reason. Hot chicks you're going to be working with. You'll never be lacking a job and good money. Well, I get into nursing school. And then a few months later, we start doing clinicals. And that's where you start inserting Foley catheters, starting IVs, learning how to hang, bags of Rocephin, Ancef, normal saline, D5W, and what have you. Wrapping wounds, finger sticks, glucose, all these kind of things. And when I started helping people, something came over me. Having someone say the word "thank you" made me feel really, really appreciated. I'm going to let you know something. 1966, I had a cancer called Wilms tumor. This tumor should have killed me. If you keep up with rock and roll, you know who Vince Neil of Motley Crue is. He lost his daughter in the 80s, I think it was, due to Wilms tumor. He lost his daughter 25 or 30 years after my surgery, and my surgery happened during a time when they didn't know very much about this form of cancer. I want to show you what it did to me. Didn't mean to show that much skin. See that incision right there? See that dark patch of skin? That's where cobalt radiation tore me up. How much fat do you see there? How much fat do you see here? See the difference? There's hardly no fat cells over here. My back, take a look at my back. I'm deformed by all the cobalt radiation and the chemotherapy I got. I should have died from this. Vince Neil's daughter died from this very same cancer. The point I'm trying to make to you is not to show you, oh, woe is me. The point I'm trying to tell you is that I spent 30 days in the hospital, chemotherapy, radiation, the whole 9 yards. I didn't sleep in a normal hospital bed like everybody else did. I slept in a playpen because I'm like 3 years old, turning 4, and the pen was like too high for me to climb out of, and that's what I had to sleep in. They didn't want me in a hospital bed because I'd be running around. And on top of that, and I have never seen this in all my years working as a nurse, I had an aluminum rod that went from here to here. It was a rod that was encased in silicone or rubber. And you see these little white patches? Those were aluminum that were bent, that dug into my skin to hold this incision closed. For whatever reason, they didn't suture me together like that. They used this aluminum rod with other aluminum things, and it acted like a claw to pull the incision together. So the point I'm trying to make is that I know what it's like to lay in a hospital bed, and I know what it's like to fear death. Because having cancer, I know that at any day I could develop cancer and die because I've had it. So when I started taking care of people as a nurse, I developed a passion for helping people. I developed an empathy and a sympathy. And everybody that I took care of like they were my family, or like that was my Lord and Savior laying in the bed. And I did it because somewhere in the scripture, it talks about treating people as if you would treat them like Christ. Can't tell you what verse, what book, but it's in there. So with that mindset and with that set of ethics and taking care of people like that, these cards would come back every month, and our unit administrator would get the cards for our units that I worked on. I worked on 2SA and 2SC. 2SA was a urology unit. We took care of women that had urology problems and men that had urology problems. 2SC was a renal unit, people who were in stage renal failure and who needed hemodialysis. Anytime that these people developed a cold, the flu, or they had problems with diabetes, they would be sent to this unit to be cared for by doctors who specialize in caring for people with end-stage renal disease. So I worked those two units. 2SA was my main unit. Month after month, these cards would come back in my favor. There had been nurses that had worked there on that unit for 20 years. And the animosity that I got, and I wasn't a targeted individual back then, but after a couple of months of every month, my unit, they would call us together in a meeting, in the meeting room. She goes, I want to tell you guys this. It looks like we're doing good here. We're not doing good there. But once again, Douglas Jones, what are you doing, Doug? Can you share with the rest of the staff what it is you're doing? Because your name keeps coming back on these cards as delivering outstanding patient care. I just said, I don't know. I just care for these people like that's my mother, that's my brother, or that's my Lord over there. That's all I know. But this man saw to it that my career should be destroyed. So he would send people into my workplace to sabotage my work, slander my name, tell people that I'm some type of molester, whatever it took to get other people to hate on me. Can you read that? Texas Asthma Camp for Kids, outstanding student nurse, 1997. I didn't know that they were even going to award anything to anybody. I was a student nurse in our last 2 weeks of the nursing program, actually getting close to the very end. We all had to do clinicals. And this particular clinical was at a camp, and it's called Camp Tyler in Tyler, Texas, on Lake Tyler. My truck was on its last leg, and this place was 45 minutes from where I lived. And I had to make up my mind. Do I want to participate in the day camp and spend 2 weeks of driving back and forth, and I can't afford the gas money? Or do I want to do the 2 week camp where I got to camp there and be like, chaperone for kids with asthma? One camp, you focus on diabetes, and the other camp, was focusing on asthma. And with the kids with asthma, is what this camp was all about. Is it was put on by the University of Texas Health Center, UT Tyler, and it was put on to help educate young kids on their asthma, what triggers their asthma, and how to use their inhalers, how to use incentive spirometries, and all this kind of stuff. And on top of that was fun. It was fishing, it was swimming, it was hiking, walking, all these kind of things, arts and crafts. And I didn't really want to go. I've worked with kids before, and I did that for like 3 years, and I hated it. There were times it was okay, times when it was fun, but I worked with some thuggish kids in my previous line of work, and I really hated it. I hated it. And I didn't want to do this, but I had no choice. I couldn't drive back and forth to the diabetic camp 5 days a week. I didn't have that much gas money, and my truck was going to crash. It was going to crap out on me. So I went ahead and I signed up for this. At least this way I could camp there and they would feed me. And I would get through that aspect, which is a clinical, and then would have one more week of nursing school, and then we would graduate. So I do this, and there's like 20 other students that decided to sign up with this, and the other 10 went to the day camp for diabetes. It just depended on what your situation was. So I went ahead and signed up for this, and I did everything that I was supposed to do. And one night, I have a rotation in the clinic. And in the clinic, it's just something you have to do. It's a rows of cabins, and everything's cabins. It's out in the woods. And they had this one cabin that was set up for a clinic for in case a kid has a problem with their asthma, they can go to the clinic, and there is a pulmonary specialist there who will treat them for their asthma, because they're all nurses there that were overseeing us, student nurses, and there were doctors overseeing the whole thing. This night, I had to go in like at 10 o'clock and be there till like 5 or 6 in the morning. I didn't think anything of it. So I'm there, and I don't know, around midnight, I think she's like 12-year-old girl, really frail. She comes in, and she's cyanotic, which means she's blue. Her skin is turning blue. She can't breathe. If you ever caught a fish and you lay them on the side of the bank and they're sucking for air and they can't get it because they can't breathe air. So she's sucking for air. She's blue. And the doctor's looking for the medicine cat, and it's not there. He's looking for a drug that will dilate her bronchial tubes in her lungs and dilate these tubes so she can get air. And so there will be that O2 exchange where arterial blood will bring in the oxygen, and then it'll get processed, and then you expel the carbon dioxide. So that kid's not there. He tells me, it's down here at the other cabin. Go get it. I run, I go get it. And I bring it back. And the cat, and the kit, the medicine kit, I was going to bring out an ampule to show you what an ampule is. In the medicine kit, he says there's breathine, which is a bronchodilator. I want you to pull that breathine out, and I want you to give X amount of breathine and give it to her now, sub-Q. Without hesitation, I reached into the medicine kit, calmly pull out the breathine, calmly drew up the dose that he requested, and calmly gave the medication to that girl. Within 5 minutes, her skin color came back. Her O2 saturations, which were really bad in the 50s, got back up into the 90s. And she stayed there all night. With the doctor watching over her. I worked my ass off to get through nursing school. I worked a full-time job working on the weekends at a place called the Andrew Center, taking care of profoundly mentally retarded men. I'd get out of school at 4 o'clock, 3 o'clock on Friday, and at 10 o'clock that night, I'd go to work and I'd have to sleep overnight in a recliner and do that until Monday morning or late Sunday night. I can't really remember. That was 1996 to 97. And then I'd go to school full time, 5 days a week, and only miss like a few classes. I didn't get this from being a bad person, for being someone that deserves to being targeted. And this file, in this briefcase, contains a lot of my nursing documents. I could pull out letter after letter after letter of commendation for the jobs that I worked at and for the thanks and gratitude for a job well done. But this man, Wayne Morris, he says I'm not worth anything. He says I'm worthy of death. He's telling all his clan buddies that they need to participate in this. I'm not worthy of anything. So he made it certain that he destroyed my career in nursing. I'm going to let you know something, that when I went into nursing, I did everything that I was supposed to do because I sought counsel from my instructors. What should I do so I can advance my career in nursing? He said, as soon as you get out of school, go to work in med surg. You could go to work for a nursing home and make a few dollars more per hour. But if you do that, you're going to lose your medical surgical experience. You're going to not learn how to do things the right way. And you're going to pick up bad habits. And then a year or two later, once you get tired of that and you decide you want to go into med surg, nobody's going to hire you because you're tainted. You've never worked in med surg before, and all the instruction you has that you've gotten since leaving nursing school is bad. I can tell you that when I went into work as a nursing home nurse, I would work in places that would have no Foley catheters with a coude. And a coude is a little tip at the end of the catheter, which for men who have prostate problems allows you to insert the catheter and then turn it to allow it to pass the prostate a lot easier than just a straight catheter or a flexible 14 or 16 or an 18 French Foley. And these people, that is their specialty, caring for geriatrics. How is it a nursing home doesn't know that the majority of male patients have an enlarged prostate, and the way that you catheterize them should be with a French Foley coude catheter? It's because they don't care. You go to work at these places, these nurses will sit there on their phone, text, play around. They'll say they did things all day long. They will document, I did this, I did that. They did nothing but sit down. They will lie in their documentation. But they would take these people and they would approach them at the places I worked at, and they would get them to turn on me. They would get the certified nursing assistants to turn on me. The same people that I would catch in the middle of the night, hiding in a patient's room, watching BET and filthy rap videos on somebody's TV who's trying to get some sleep. Someone who's 85 years old that is trying to get rest. They're kicked back, propped up with their feet, watching some filthy rap video while grandma's over here can't sleep. But they're quick. They're quick to approach them. Say, yeah, that Doug guy's a bad guy. You wanna harass him? Oh, hell yeah, I want to harass him. Every time I try to sneak away and sleep in a room, he catches me. He makes me do my job. Yeah, I don't like him. He's a bastard. So when it would come time for directed conversations, skits and street theater, this guy that's harassing me, who tells everybody I'm unworthy, that I'm a sorry piece of crap, he enlists these people. He sends them text messages, which they'll read from their phone. Let's say, this is my desk right here where I'm sitting at, an arm reach away from the camera. Let's say this is my desk at Park Place Nursing Home. This is where I write in the chart and document on 45 people I take care of. 15 feet away is where 3 to 4 CNAs sit all night long. I'm working a 12-hour shift from 7P to 7A, either 3 nights a week or 4 nights a week. It rotates. These people are normally sitting over here at midnight trying to stay awake, trying to read a newspaper, or trying to play with their phone. That was the normal night for many, many nights until the gang stalking, till the workplace mobbing, and then the directed conversations and the skits come in. So he sees fit to destroy this job. So he tells them I'm some type of molester, or I'm some type of wicked, hideous person, and this is why you should say these things, because we're going to send you text messages about this guy, and we want you to read them. Will you do this? They know who to approach, and they know who not to approach. So these guys, they got these old-fashioned text phones. It's 2005, 2006. There's a person sitting here, person sitting here, person sitting here, person sitting here, kind of a horseshoe shape in front of my desk. As I chart all night, I can look up and see who's sleeping, who's fighting sleep, who's reading a magazine, who's reading a newspaper. And occasionally they'll get up to go answer a call light. But when the stalking started, all of a sudden people became really alert at midnight and really fond of reading their cell phone. Then it would turn into this. This is how I know who my stalker is. Walmart's going to kill him. The person, they get their text. Yep, Walmart's going to kidnap him, take him to an abandoned warehouse where his friends and his family members, they're going to be at that abandoned warehouse, and then they're all going to videotape Walmart killing him. The other person responds, if he doesn't do that, Walmart will kidnap him, kill him, and then feed him to the alligators to dispose of the evidence. That, my friends, is what is called directed conversations. I'm going to tell you something else that will boggle your mind. Some of you don't know what remote neural monitoring is, and some of you have doubts and reservations about it. But I'm here to tell you 100% absolutely, positively certain it does exist. This is why I know that this man is wicked and he is evil. One night, it's my night off. I had cable TV in 2006 or 2007. I was watching a lot of Chappelle's show. That was my show back in the day. I'd only been a targeted individual for 2 or 3 years, but I didn't know I was a targeted individual. I just knew that my life, things were changing in my life. And there was this movie that came out called Brokeback Mountain. And I had some hesitations about watching this movie. I was like, I don't really know that I really want to watch this. You know, I really don't know. But I said, hey, it's got Heath Ledger in it. It's got Jake Gyllenhaal. The reviews are off the hook. So there's got to be a good movie. Let's check it out. So I check out the movie. I watch it. And then either the next day, I got the day off, or I have to go into work. None of the things that ever happened to me at work would ever happen during 8 to 5, or when there's administrative staff around, or when there's non-perps in the building. It would only be when the perps are in full swing. Perps will not perp out in front of non-perps. Or at least that's the way it worked in my situation. So after 5 or 6 o'clock, after people get fed, I've got 3 halls. I got this hall, I got this hall, and I got this hall. I got 45 patients. I'm their charge nurse, and I've got 3 or 4 certified nursing assistants, which they're under my supervision. Have this one patient who's 2 or 3 doors down, who's been there for months and months and months and months. She's an elderly woman in her 80s, upper 80s, and she's had massive strokes. She's flaccid. She can't even move. But she can speak. And typically, what she would say was something about her son. Oh, John, where are you, John? Oh, John, my son, John. And that was basically it. I'd been in her room hundreds of times assisting the certified nursing assistants, changing her diapers, changing her linen, taking her blood sugar, doing dressings. She had no cable TV. She had a television, which was sometimes on, but there was no Brokeback Mountain on her television. That was pay-per-view. She didn't have that. So I go to work. It's somewhere around late in the afternoon. I start hearing, oh, Brokeback Mountain. Oh, Brokeback Mountain. And I go into this woman's room, and that's her, who was nothing but little more than a vegetable that only uttered a few common things that were repetitive. And now she's hollering, oh, Brokeback Mountain. How wicked, how evil, how depraved, how much of a reprobate could anyone be to subject that woman to that, to get to me? I'm going to tell you the truth. When I initially heard this, I was shocked out of my mind. I was speechless. I almost soiled myself. Here I am. I just watched this movie. This woman does not have cable TV. She can only utter a few handful phrases, and that hasn't been one of them the entire time she's been here. I got angry. I thought, one of these CNAs were put up to this. They told her, if you don't say this, we're going to harm you. And that's what I thought year after year. But I reflected back on something that happened to me. I'd been targeted and harassed with V2K, street theater, and severe gang stalking. This was 2008. This was right after I left nursing. They were just mobbing me intensely with all this demonic activity. And after they stopped, I said, I can't go back to work as a nurse anymore. It's too dangerous. I don't want to make a mistake. I don't want to endanger anyone's life. And I don't want this to come to my place of work, because there have been people time and time again who would sabotage my work and would do anything, including harming other people, in order to get me into trouble. And so I just let my career go. I let my nursing license lapse. And after I endured this really bad next campaign I went through, I was convinced that I had bipolar disorder and that everything that was going around me, it wasn't targeting, because I didn't even know what gang stalking was. Just knew all this bizarre things were going around me, and I have to be crazy. I have to be crazy for all this to be happening. And the reality was I wasn't crazy. It really was happening to me. And so, long story short, I wrote the Texas Board of Nursing and I surrendered my license because I felt unworthy to practice as a nurse anymore. And so now, for me to get my license back, I have to take some tests, and I have to take a polygraph test, and I have to smoke all this, and that's probably $5,000 worth of fees. I don't have the money. And I do know that until this is settled, it's not going to do me any good to go back into nursing, because these people are wicked. They're beyond depraved. They will stop at nothing. Stop at nothing. I was going to get into something else. Oh yeah, about this lady and about remote neural monitoring. I totally forgot about what happened after I went through that period where I thought I had bipolar disorder. And I really would have bought into it. But I want to give you some history about that before I get into the next thing. Bipolar disorder requires that you have a manic state. And I'm going to let you know, people, that I worked at Rush State Hospital as a mental health tech. I worked at Austin State Hospital as a mental health tech. I worked at Rush State Hospital as a psychiatric medication nurse. I worked at Austin State School as a psychiatric medication nurse. I've worked at Andrew Center as a mental health technician, and I've worked other places. I've got a combined experience of over 7 years with psychiatric mental retardation in this field. And I've encountered, can't count how many bipolar people I've dealt with. And the thing that is most prevalent with them when they're in a hospital is they have something that is called pressured speech. And a pressured speech is, if you've ever remembered watching Charlie Sheen talk about the tiger blood, and stick the cigarettes in his nose and smoke the cigarettes, and he's rambling, he's yada, yada, yada. He just keeps jawing. That's pressured speech. That's a need to continue to babble, babble, babble. And I started examining the DSM again, and I go, I've never had that. The other thing is hypomania. And there's 4 stages, actually 5. There's major depression, the normal stage, and there's hypomania, and then there's mania. Never had hypomania. Hypomania is simply a heightened sense, being a positive vibe for a long time. And other people would mistake this as someone who is just, they're in the zone, they're hitting on all cylinders, they're happy and everything's going their way. But over a period of time, that develops into mania. Never had that. Depression? Yeah, I've been depressed before. But regular depression is not anything that people get put on medication for. But a long story short, I bought into the concept that I must have had bipolar disorder. And then slowly, but surely, I started revisiting everything. And I'm like, no, that wasn't bipolar disorder. I was actually being gang stalked. Once I figured out what gang stalking was, and I was led to the truth, and this happened over and over again, I'm like, well, I don't have pressured speech. And I'm seeing this. It's not a vision. It's not a hallucination. But let me tell you something. People that's watched the channel, you've heard the story before. 2008, it happened after I surrendered my license. I went to work for a Pizza Hut. I go to work for the Pizza Hut, minimum wage. I don't like what I'm doing. Back there in the kitchen, doing whatever I'm doing. And it's a typical day. There's a song in my head, probably Smoke on the Water, probably Bon Jovi, Living on a Prayer, which I hate. You know, it's always those songs that get stuck in your head you don't like. And before you jump to the gun and go, oh, yeah, they put that in your head. No, this is normal for me. It's been normal my entire life. In fact, this is normal for everyone. People get dumb things stuck in their head. Being a baby boomer, growing up with black and white television, the only way you could change the channel was going up to the TV and clicking it. Sunday, Saturday mornings was getting out of bed in your t-shirt and your little tidy whities, pouring a box of Cheerios into a bowl, gluck, 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 half a quart of milk, about a cup of sugar, and then perch yourself right in front of that TV set and gobble it all down. H&R Puffin stuff, the Three Stooges, all the cartoons, and then you had to endure the commercials like Mr. Whipple, don't squeeze the Charmin, or it's not nice to fool Mother Nature, or da-da-da-da-dun, da-da-da-da-dun, da-da-da-da-da-dun, da-da-da-da-dun, da-da-da-da-dun, da-da-da-da. It's a slinky, a wonderful, wonderful toy. And even if you're not a baby boomer, everybody knows what a slinky is. It's this stainless steel toy. It's a coil that if you learn how to use it, it will use the laws of inertia in physics to walk. I've had one and I never could make it do anything. But the commercial jingle was in my head. And that's what they used to call them back in those days, were jingles. Nowadays, you don't have jingles anymore. You have infomercial type things where people try to educate you on the product and why you should buy it. But that jingle was in my head. I didn't tell it to anybody. I didn't sing it in front of anybody. I just worked and I was like, stupid commercial is stuck in my head. I get off work. I got my old decrepit cell phone, which it doesn't have text like you got nowadays. You can't text like you can now. There's no GPS. It's just, it got a little antenna on it. It's a 2000 Nokia. And I'm walking home because the fuel pump's broke in my truck. So I'm walking home and my phone buzzes in my pocket. Zzz. And I take my phone out and I whoop it out. And the phone has a text message with an exclamation point, and it says, it's a slinky. So for you people that say remote neural monitoring and V2K, it's a bunch of nonsense, I forgot about that. I argued with David Voits about remote neural monitoring, say it's not possible. You cannot read somebody's mind. How can you do that? I totally forgot about that incident. Then I had a conversation with Dr. John Hall. And Dr. John Hall basically told me that the human brain has an output of about 5 watts of power. Do you know that Voyager 1 and Voyager 2 spacecraft, which have left our solar system, are still in communication with Earth? Do you know that it only has an amplifier that transmits 5 watts of power of a radio signal that we here on Earth still receive some 40-something years later? Got me thinking. Then I heard about this bioencoded DNA, where people take your trash, they sort through it, and they find your DNA in your trash, and they take it to the appropriate people. These people analyze it, put it into a supercomputer. They find your biometric fingerprint, not like this, but in a sense, because each and every one of us has an EMF resonant frequency that is unique to us. And if you know what this frequency is, someone with the right equipment can tune into it. You no longer need an EEG skull cap with all the electrodes hooked up to an EEG machine and an electroencephalograph. You don't need that anymore. We have software that you hook the software up to a receiver that reads your frequency at what you're broadcasting at, and it transmits your radio frequency, which is unique to you. It is received, and then it is decoded, the sounds and the sights. It's amazing, people. Even when I finally came to the realization that it's not only probable, but that it is real, I kept going, well, maybe they can hear pretty much what you hear, but I think that the visual thing is probably pretty pixelated and you can't see too good of what the target's seeing. It's not 1080. I kept rationalizing that it's not that good. Can't be that good. I want to tell you something. I don't know how long I've been online now. 2 hours and 27 minutes. I've missed the Cowboys game. I wanted to see Dallas Cowboys play today. I guess I'll have to watch the highlight. That's my team. I'm going to tell you how good that this remote neural monitoring is. How well it can see what you're seeing. I covered this in the beginning of my video. I shop at Walmart, and I get my prescriptions at Walmart. I know my pharmacist. I know all the pharmacists, and I know all the pharmacist techs. I know in the past couple of days, her demeanor, her affect has totally changed. She's rolling her eyes at me. She's not that affable anymore, and she seems more distant than I've ever seen her. And she's always been a very pleasant and accommodating person. She has turned. I went to go pick up a prescription, and I could tell by her behavior something is off. Have your camera ready, Doug. Just have it setting on. Have it over here. I got it to where my camera is right here, and my video is ready to go. I said, just have it ready to take a picture or take a video. She's turned. And if you don't know what turn is, you watch zombie movies. You've seen Zombieland. You know that point where they go from like being normal to, they turn. She turned. So I saw that she turned. And the problem is when these people turn and when they get perped out, evidently they don't know that we can see that in them. You can see that. So she's turned and she's perked out. She's filling my prescription. And she's got a counter like this. I'm saying this for all the people that didn't watch earlier 2 hours ago. On this counter, she never says anything. And on this counter back here is where she works from and where all the pharmacists and pharmacist techs work from. And she always works from this spot. This is her spot. The techs don't work here. This is her spot. She takes my prescription. She turns it upside down. She places it on the countertop. The hundreds of times that I have been to this pharmacy, she has never ever took and filled anything and even placed it right side up on the countertop. Usually once she gets through with everything, she's got a little sack over here. She puts it in the sack that's got a little hanger on it, and then she goes over here to the hanger. You know what Walmart looks like on the inside of the pharmacy. That is their protocol. That's their setup. I'm going to tell you something that I do. And I've been doing this ever since I began nursing, because this helps me when I'm setting up my medications. When I set up my medications and I'm pulling from stock over here and I'm filling my medications, after I fill the pill and put it into a little cup, I turn the bottle upside down. This bottle over here, this right side up, that's a bottle I need to pull from, read the name, check the date, check the milligram, check the 5 rights before I put the pill in here. And once I do, I turn it upside down and I set it to my right. Everything on my left is to be filled, and everything on my right has been filled. And it's going to be upside down until it's time to put them away. That's what my countertop looks like over there. All these medicines at nighttime, when I go through all these medicines and I take whichever medicine I take this, I turn it upside down to let me know I've already taken that. Because what if I have a momentary lapse of reason and I forget, did I take that? I don't have to write down you took it. I can see it's to my right and it's upside down. I took it. If it's sitting over here to my, and what I do is this is how I prep. I look for everything I'm supposed to take, and everything I'm supposed to take, I set it to my left and it stands upright on the countertop. Once I take it from the bottle, I turn it upside down. I set it to my right. All my years of nursing, of watching other nurses set up medications, no one has ever done this. Never seen anyone do it. Anyone. All my time of getting prescriptions filled since, I don't know, past 45 years, 40 years, I've never seen any pharmacist or pharmacist tech do this. And out of all the times I've been to Walmart, my pharmacist has never done that. It's a form of mimicry. Now, I don't know if she is cognizant of what she's doing. You know, for the longest time, it took me a long time to buy into the remote neuromonitoring. And then when I bought into it, I didn't give it as much credit as it really does deserve. I scoffed at it a lot. I scoff a lot at nanotech too. And this hive mind thing, I've been staying away from that. I'm like, I don't really want to get into that. Everybody's connected with a supercomputer, and people are, you know, they're influencing, they're making them do and say things that turning them into bot. And DB talks about this. And with that said, I'm not saying that DB doesn't know what he's talking about. It's just something I can't wrap my head around. But I watch DB and I learn from DB, that's just one of those things that I really don't know much about. But he talks about it. And it's good that he's talking about it, because now I really am starting to wrap my head around the possibility that there is really a hive mind. And this is coming from someone who I can tell you that if I was not a targeted individual, I would be making fun of everyone who is posted in the comment section. If you would ever post anywhere on Facebook, I would light you up. I would make fun of you. I was a scoffer. I'm still a scoffer. But this whole thing with the hive mind, which I'm going to get back into, and I'm going to revisit something I talked about earlier. Some of you people may not have been around through the past 2 hours and 35 minutes. But this is why I'm going to start researching the hive mind and understanding a little bit more about it. The reason is my pharmacist has always been accommodating. She's always been pleasant. Her demeanor has always been sweet and kind. She has never rolled her eyes at me. She's never been impatient with me. She has always been accommodating, very sweet. She strikes me as a lovely Christian woman. And when I went in the other day to pick up my prescriptions, that went out the window. My natural reaction is, oh, here we go again. This is somebody that's been lied to. They probably told them that I was a bad person, or I'm some kind of molester or something like that. The normal run-of-the-mill lie. And you know what I'm starting to think? Some of these people haven't even been approached. Starting to think that there's actual technology. That even if you don't have someone's DNA, you can get up in here. Sounds crazy. I had a kinfolk once who was saying some crazy stuff. And I thought that kinfolk got perked out. But I'm gonna tell you why I think this hive mind and this other stuff is legit. I'm going to pull some other things into this. And I said this story about 2 hours ago. I was out partying and drinking with my friends about 4 or 5 years ago. Old friends from way back in the day. I used to play in a band. We used to go to my dad's farmhouse where he grew up out in the country, where my band would play, and people would come from all over the county and come listen to heavy metal music. And I had friends out the wazoo. There would be cars parked up and down this county road. People coming in, drinking, partying, raising hell, rocking on. And this guy who's my drummer, and this other guy who's now deceased, and this other guy that was friends with those two guys that went to high school together. Well, two of them, you know, I was sitting in the living room, like back here where you see that stuff at. I was back there, and they were right like where I'm at. And they were both at the kitchen sink, and their demeanor changed immediately. And one was saying to the other, I'm going to punch him. I'm going to punch him right in his kidney. Yeah, we need to beat his ass up. We need to show him who's boss. It was something along that lines. And I'm listening to this. I'm like, neither one of these guys are violent people. I've never heard any one of these guys even talk or boast about any fight they've ever had. As a matter of fact, one is a pacifist who got some judo training when he was a young kid, and he told me how he handled a situation one time with a guy who was trying to overpower him, and he didn't boast of it at all. He didn't boast of it. He just simply said, he came at me, and I put him on the ground. He didn't go, I came at him, and then I put him on the ground, and I put my brogan up on his neck, and I told him, boy, I'll stop a mud hole in your ass. He wasn't like that. He's not like that. He's never been like that. And the other guy, he wasn't a brawler either. But this was 4 or 5 years ago. And I'm like, what's going on? Is my ears deceiving me? Are my eyes deceiving me? And then when a few moments passed, they returned back to their normal selves, and we sat around and we tossed back some beers. My neighbor 2 doors down. Now, they had to perp her out. She's turned because she's been doing mimicry, which is she's taking from things that are relative to me and she's expressing it as if it were her. She's saying she was a nurse. She's got low back problem. She was on oxycodone. She went to the same pain management clinic I went to, and she had problems with the same person I went to. She's also telling me she's got a heart problem that's terminal. Well, I got all those things. I got a heart problem. I don't know if it's terminal. Care less. I'm not worried about it. When she told me she had a heart problem, I didn't know what to say. And so when I got back to my apartment, I just said a really quick prayer for her. But 2 days ago, now that she's out and I know that she's turned, check this out. This is my door. I wish I had this on my camera, but something's wrong with YouTube. There's no live icon button on YouTube or YouTube Studio. So I'm thinking, since my phone's hacked, they've taken that ability off my phone. It may be taken off my Facebook too. I tried Zoom. I can't find it on Zoom. This is the only way I could do it. I've heard of same time entry and exit, but I always kind of scratch my head and go, how would that work? How would that work? How would anybody know when you're leaving? So I've always scratched my head and kind of go, that sounds kind of kooky. You know, some of these TIs, they are kind of kooky, you know, and not everybody who says they're a TI is a TI. I open my door to my apartment and have the intention, taking 2 or 3 steps, leaning against the railing, looking at my pool over here, look at the tennis court, feel the ambient temperature, soak in the Lord's day, and listen to the water. We got this thing that comes out of pillars, and it's water that hits the pool, and it's very soothing. And I just wanted to check that out. Well, I walk out of my apartment, and the exact moment I opened the door, now it would have been a total coincidence had I just opened the door. She opened the door, she walked out, she went to work, she played with her plants or something like that. No cause for alarm. But check this out, people. She walks, she takes 2 steps. She turns, and she's facing this way. She turns and she looks at me. She does a 360. And then she walks back into her apartment like she was under mind control. I have endured many campaigns of harassment. I have seen a lot of bizarre street theater. I've seen a lot of skits. But what I'm seeing now is beyond that. Everything else that I've experienced up until now, it pales in comparison. What I'm seeing now, it makes me scratch my head about this hive mind theory. And I really don't want to get into reading about this and learning about it, because my life is more than targeting. It's more than gang stalking. This is just a simple aspect of my life. This is something that the Lord has brought me to. And he's going to see me through it. The Lord knew that this would bring me closer to him. That he would show me that if you focus on me, Make me your Lord. Put me first. I will show you. I will show you how to defeat these people. Doesn't matter all their threats. Doesn't matter they're implying that they're going to kill you and destroy you. Don't listen to them. Yes, go ahead and capture the evidence. Expose them. But do not fear them. I'm telling you, brothers and sisters that are out there who fear this, don't fear it. And don't look at this as punishment from the Lord. Look at this as a blessing. Because not everybody in the world who calls themselves Christians are honestly Christians. There's a lot of false converts out there. And know this, that if you see this through the lens of Scripture and you look towards your Savior and your God, and you put your trust in Him, do you know this is like walking through the gates of hell and demons on you within an inch reach, reaching out, trying to grab you, but they cannot pull you in. They try to lasso you with a rope, and they almost get you, but they don't get you. They threaten you with murder, with torture, and you don't listen to them because your mind is on the Lord, because you put your faith in God. Not everybody in the world gets to experience this. Now, this is horrible. Make no bones about it. This is absolutely depravity. But some of these people, Lord, some of these people, folks, they're under mind control. They're asleep. They're sleepwalking. Pray for these people. Pray for them. This is my 17th year in this, and each and every time I go through one of these campaigns, I learn something new and I become even more stronger and more resilient. And the thing that I'm learning here is that I'm seeing evidence of good people being turned out. And you know what? Let's say you go to a good Bible-believing church and you know that the people you go to church with, they're true brothers and sisters in Christ. These people cannot be turned out. But the ones that are in church, they're not really down with the Lord. They're just there for, appearances, or thinking maybe I'll get something out of this. I don't know. Maybe I'll get a blessing. I'll come here and I'll snag some blessing. And there's a lot of people that think that way. There's a lot of people who treat the Lord like he's Santa Claus. That's how Joel Osteen preaches to his congregation, that God is Santa Claus. He never talks about the consequences of sin. All he talks about every week is, I know this person who's did this, and he's got this story. This guy has told over 1,000 stories of people who persevered and God gave him something wrapped up in a bow. But it's really something. When I saw my pharmacist act totally out of character, my initial gut reaction was they lied about me. Somebody got to her. But in reality, that would mean that all of these people who are acting crazy, all of them, someone has to come before them and give them a testimony, give them a story about me. And that would be hundreds of interactions. Do you know how difficult that would be? Think about it. And that's the way I used to think it worked. And I do think to a big degree that that's how a lot of it works. But this lady, she's been my pharmacist for the past 2 years. Very pleasant. Oh, hi, Mr. Jones. How are you doing? You're always such a pleasant person. Are you doing well today? Okay, let me go see what I have for you. She went from that to like, well, let me go back here and see what the doctor ordered for you. Rolls those eyes at me. Totally. The demeanor changes. How would that happen? Would it happen because someone approached her and said, he's a bad dude and you should hate him? Or could it possibly be there is this hive mind thing to where you can gain control of certain people's minds and control them? And I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to tell you something about a technology that I experienced. A technology that tried to overpower me. I got a DWI in 2003, in May 2003, I think it was. Could have been 2004. I think it was 2004. Got a DWI, and long story short, my probation got revocated because I couldn't make it to the probation office. And I had to spend 2 weeks in Smith County Jail. And the first night that I was there, I was terrified. I was frightened. I was thinking that I didn't even know I was being gang stalked, but I knew that people were perpetrating and hating on me. And they did perpetrate and hate on me, but nobody ever laid a finger on me. It was all gang stalking, torture, psychological torture at the time. And as I was laying in bed, and I'm sitting here and I'm praying to the Lord, I am praying without ceasing because I can't sleep. I'm just praying and praying and praying. Lord, forgive me of this. And I remember praying about a guy smacked upside the head one time. And I'm saying, Lord, please forgive me for smacking that guy upside the head. And I'm praying quietly to myself. And then all of a sudden, I start. And I'm not on drugs. And do you know what was trying to come out of my mouth? The N-word. Do you know who was in my jail cell? A black guy. And I'm like, why am I trying to utter this word? I would never say this in the presence of a black guy. I'm not saying I've never said it, but you surely don't say it in front of black folks. So I'm sitting there and I'm and I keep feeling the end trying to roll off my tongue. And I'm going, what is going on here? And then I was praying before this. And then I just sat up in my bed, like rising from the dead. And I started talking, saying, I believe in Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ is my Lord and Savior. I started confessing in the Lord. And it passed. And I wasn't anticipating that. I don't think that whoever was, perpetrating the remote neural monitoring or the forced speech, and I've read about the forced speech before. And I can tell you, they can make you say things you don't want to say, or at least try. But since I was fighting it, they couldn't make me say it. But the point I'm trying to make is these people, like this pharmacist, who's normally pleasant, accommodating, very sweet, very cordial, who all of a sudden starts rolling her eyes at me, giving me negative body language, and being hostile to me, passive aggressive. I'm like, what happened to her? I've had hundreds of interactions with her. She's never been like this. And so instead of me thinking, somebody perped her out. I'm starting to look at this hive mind thing a hell of a lot different than I ever have, and I'm going to start looking into it. Now, I know I haven't read any of the comments in the past 2 hours and 54 minutes because I've been talking. I hope you guys are talking amongst yourselves. I know some of you don't believe in remote neuromonitoring and others don't believe in V2K. That's okay. It's okay. I didn't believe in it either. But I've had overwhelming evidence that both exist. The first time I heard V2K, I was being harassed, and this would be my last month in nursing, working at a nursing home, before I decided to hang up my stethoscope. I've been harassed. A lady hired me who I went to high school with. She was 3 grades ahead of me. And she was happy. She rolled out the welcome mat to me to come to work at Lexington Place Nursing Home in Russ, Texas. And she was somebody I knew from my community. I played on the same baseball team as her brother. She's now deceased. I won't name her. She hired me, and I worked 11 straight days without a day off for her. Show my dedication because I needed the money. I show up one day and I got my backpack over my shoulder. I'm in my scrubs. I got my Littman hanging around my neck, and I'm walking. And she's like coming down the hall, and she goes, "What the fuck are you doing here?" And she's a light complected lady, very fair, kind of like what you would imagine from someone from Ireland with the red hair, very, very, very light complected. "What the fuck are you doing here?" I'm like, it's my shift. She goes, "You don't fucking work here anymore." I go, "What's going on?" "Get your shit and get the fuck out of here." Her face was beet red. She was flushed. I went to high school with her for 1 year. While she was going to high school, she worked with my mother at Russ State Hospital on SLU, the Social Learning Unit. She knew my mother. We were friendly. I met her after I graduated from nursing school at a place called Mercado's in Tyler, Texas, which is a Mexican restaurant. And I sat down and I bent her ear for 30 minutes and I talked to her about nursing. And she was like telling me, "Oh, it's a great career." This was 1997, summer of 1997, just graduated. I'm like, I don't want to say her name. I'm like, "I hear you can make a lot of money in nursing. You can get a lot of hours, all this." I'm just enthusiastic. She goes, "Yeah." I go, "How much money can you make?" She goes, "I've been flown out to California on the weekends, and I did 80 grand last year." Now, 80 grand right now is not like a lot of money, but we're talking 1997. That was buku dinero. Do you know my first job in nursing? I got paid $11.19 an hour to be a med-surg nurse. And top pay at that time for someone that had experience that could work in an agency setting was only making $13 or $14 an hour as an LVN, which I was. But I come to work, she says, "Get the fuck out of here." It blew my mind. Prior to that, my work had been sabotaged. My briefcase over here, I've got accommodations, letters of accommodations. If you guys just not watching, most of you already seen this. I posted it like a couple of hours ago, but this is what I got in nursing school. Only one person out of 30 got this. I got this for doing a heroic action which saved someone's life. But the man who's stalking me, who wants me dead, says I'm worthless. So they get to her and they evidently tell her I'm some kind of molester or I did something bad or whatever. But this guy's with the Klan, and the Klan's got a lot of pull here in East Texas. And I was told before I even met this guy, you don't want to get on his bad side. And I'm like, why would I get on his bad side? And I met him. He's a great guy. Great guy. Had some beers with him. But I was told over and over and over and over and over, he knows a lot of people. And I was told that over and over and over by the same person. He knows a lot of people. He does. Oh, does he know a lot of people? But one thing that I do know, he has a hell of a lot of influence in Smith County. And there are a lot of people out there in the streets who are showing their allegiance to him. But I will say this from what I know about gang stalking, about the program that existed in Stasi, East Germany, there were people that were informants, which we would call perps, that did so unwittingly. You either did it full force because you believed in socialism and Marxism, you believed in the East German statehood, or you did so because if you didn't, what they were asking you to do to someone else would be done to you. Folks, while you're watching this video, I want you to break out a pen and paper, and this will be revealed to you in a movie. The movie is called The Lives of Others. This movie is about the secret East German Stasi police. This is about gang stalking. It is the most credible movie I have ever seen about gang stalking. It is in German with English subtitles. It doesn't get into the stalking, into the depth of what we experience, but it does give you a pretty good insight into it. It shows handlers spying on people. It shows handlers approaching people and telling them to either be silent or to go along with this. And they're threatened, like this handler and all these other guys. They break into this TI's apartment. They change the curios around a little bit, and they take a little coffee and they pour it in the sink. Just let the guy know that somebody's been there. They break into his house using locksmith's tools. They set up cameras and audio bugs and stuff. They meticulously go through his journals, and they've got these old little German spy cameras, and they're taking photographs, turning the page, taking photographs. It's what they do. And as these guys are leaving this apartment of this TI, when they walk out the door, across the hall about 6 to 10 feet away is another apartment. And there's a peephole. And as they're walking out, the handler, he's walking out, he looks at the peephole, and he can see on the other side of the peephole, there's someone looking. And there's a woman looking. And she sees the guy looking at her. She's taken aback. She takes a couple steps back. He slowly walks to the door. The woman reluctantly opens the door, and he tells the woman, "You didn't see anything today. You know, your child that wants to go to university, if you say anything about this, they will not be admitted to university." You see, in Marxist East Germany, the grocery store was controlled by the government. Every job you got, it didn't matter if you was pumping gas or if you was a janitor, if you did the news, if you was a radio DJ, if you sold clothes, if you served ice cream, if you flipped hamburgers, it was all government employment. And so these people were extorted. They were extorted and manipulated. And either you wanted to go, yeah, sure. What do you want me to do? What do you want me to tell about my best friend over here? About my brother? What do you want me to tell you about him? I'm all German, baby. I'm down for the program. I am down for Marxism. I'm down for socialism. I am for the ministry of the state. I will do whatever you ask me. There were those types. But there were also people who didn't want to do it. But when faced with the prospect of losing their income, being destitute, being forced out of their apartment with no place to stay, because there's no equal housing, there's no HUD, there's no housing urban development, there's no applying for an apartment and getting it because you got low income, you're on welfare or SNAP, and the government, it's not going to help you. The government's going to say, oh, we see here, Stasi asked you for a little assistance and you declined assistance. It looks like the apartment situation is not looking good for you today. Can I get my food ration stamp? Suddenly we seem to be in short supply of food rations today. And so these people were faced with these problems. And they had no other course of action to either say no and then be forced out into the street to where they would be terrorized and to the point to where they wanted to commit suicide, or they reluctantly did it, or they did it because they wanted to. It's one of the three. There was no other option. Since this campaign is shedding more light on this, for me, I can tell you in the past, I have caught instances where I've caught people setting things up for a skit or street theater. One time at Austin State School, I actually heard people who are on the other side of the wall in another office going, oh, it's about to go down. It's about to go down. They're about to mow his ass down. It's going to happen at 6:30. Oh, I was going to take my lunch break, but I'm not going on lunch. I want to be there for this. They were talking about how I was going to get perped out. And then I saw one lady who they approached, and she didn't seem like she was all in. She was kind of like, and I was watching this from afar. I could see the people who had the bloodlust, like the sharks in the water. As soon as the blood comes out, they all pounced and they all jumped in. But she wasn't a shark. She was away from the pack. And they were trying to pull her in. But it's like she didn't want to have anything to do with it. So she walked off. She didn't see me. They didn't see me. They didn't hear me. Now, with that said, that was 2007. With that said, combined with other things that I've seen throughout harassment, campaigns of harassment, and the fact that this pharmacist, who's been a sweet, endearing, kind, accommodating, pleasant pharmacist, I couldn't ask for a better pharmacist. For her to turn like a zombie and I'm a bot now. You're a TI. You're my enemy. I initially wanted to go, I'm going to have hatred from you from now on. But the Lord who resides in me says you can't hate her. Now, after I started thinking about that and these other things that I've been talking to you about, I'm starting to think that there is some type of technology that exists that can overpower the mind of an unsuspecting person and turn them out. There's no way impossible that hundreds of people in my community all have my history and all think that I am some type of bad person. I mean, if that was the case, these campaigns of harassment would never end. I mean, if you are known as a bad person in your community, you're going to get those bad looks from then on out. But I can tell you, every single time I go through this, I get these bad looks, I get these stares, I get the spotters who are waiting for me to pass by. And then once the campaign's over, it goes from just like that. That is not an exaggeration. My pharmacist will return to her sweet and noble self. Because this is not my first rodeo. I think it's a combination of many things. Technology is definitely in there. But as someone who loves the Lord with all his heart, I am seeing demonic activity. It's really, really demonic. I actually sat down and we're going into 3 hours and 15 minutes. I said this earlier about 2 hours ago. I sat down last night with my cell phone because I know it's hacked. I sat down with my cell phone and I had a conversation with a man whose name is Wayne Morris, who lives in Bullard, Texas. And this is the man, if you've listened to any of my videos and you heard about where I'm a nurse and they always say Walmart's going to kill him, Walmart's going to shoot him, Walmart's going to kidnap him. Walmart was just simply a ghost name for Wayne Morris. He wanted me to know that I am the one behind this. And this was happening in 2005, 6, and 7, and I am not that bright of a person. And every time they kept saying Walmart, I would go, "Who is Walmart?" And these CNAs would be sitting back here reading from their cell phones, and then they gaslight me and they go, "Doug, what are you talking about?" I'm like, you guys are looking at your cell phone. You say Walmart is going to kill this guy. Night after night after night after night. Walmart is going to shoot him. Walmart's going to kidnap him. Walmart's going to feed him to an alligator. Walmart's going to put him in a wood chipper. Who is this Walmart guy? They look at me and they go, "We haven't said anything." So last night, knowing that this remote neural monitoring thing is a real thing, knowing that my phone is hacked because everywhere I go to pick items up from Walmart's, and I'm not talking about him. I'm a Walmart Spark delivery driver, and I got to get notifications on my app where to go pick up groceries. And since the harassment started back up, every place I go, there's spotters and there's people doing skits in street theater. It happens everywhere I go. They know where I'm going to be at what time. And then they know my route because they can see on my app the addresses that I'm going to be dispatched to. And so there's spotters along my route who will park in such a way to where their headlights are always on me. And they're never ever looking down at their phones. They're never over here doing this. They're never doing this. They're always sitting at their steering wheel and they're staring at the road and they're waiting for me to come by to make eye contact with me. And what I've been doing is I see these spotters, and when I have time, I go by, I take down their license plate, I videotape them, and I photograph them. So I have a conversation with this guy last night. I pour my heart and my soul into him. And this is not an attempt for me to evade targeting or to get on his good side or anything of that nature. I will be the first to tell you that I am a horrible sinner. But I'll also be the first to tell you that I believe in Jesus Christ and he's my Lord and Savior. I'll also be the first to tell you that if I had an opportunity to be granted immunity, if I would turn and work for them and have all this wiped away and live out my life normally, or just stay where I am and put my faith and trust in God above, I would not go with them. I will stay the course with the Lord. This has brought me closer to the Lord. This, in a weird way, is a blessing. So I'm pouring my heart out to him. I'm like, sir, I understand you're mad at me, and I know why you're mad at me. You have every right to be angry with me. But this has gone on far too long. You've already got your revenge on me. 17 years, I lost my career in nursing. I've lost over a $500,000 worth of income. $500,000 worth of income. 2008, no, let's go 2021 minus 2008. 2021 minus 2008. Why is my calculator saying 13? That's not right. 2008 to 18 is 10 years. 19, 20, 21. Oh, yeah, that is right. I'm trying to factor up something different. So that's 13 years times $50,000 a year. That's $650,000 worth of income I have lost. And that's averaging everything around $50,000. Right now, I would have 97, 2007, 2017, 18, 19, 20, 21. I would have 21 years of solid med-surg experience. And not only that, I would also be an RN by now because I'd already taken almost all the prerequisites to go to the associate degree of nursing at Tyler Junior College, which I was trying to get. So had I already gotten that, I got my associate's degree in nursing, I would probably be making, I don't know, with the COVID, with sign-on bonuses, I could easily make $100,000 last year. So I've lost about $650,000, and I'm having this conversation with him. Somebody is listening to me like they are now. It's not you. It's just my audience. Somebody is on the other end of this and they can hear me. Somebody's on the other end of the remote neuromonitoring and they can hear that as well. So I'm telling this guy, look, dude, I know you're pissed. I know you're angry and you have every right to be. But I think that I've more than enough paid for this. And I'm telling you this because I owe a person he knows money. And I said, as soon as I get the money, I'm going to pay that person. It's going to be in private. I'm not going to make any errors about it. I'm not going to make a big spectacle. I don't want it to be everybody's business. I'll pay what I owe, and the debt will be settled. And I said, as far as you and me, I have no animosity towards you. I will not seek vengeance. I don't want vengeance, and I pray for you and your family, and I hope the best for you. But it's time for this to end. And I spent a good 30, 45 minutes doing this. And then I went to bed with a good, clear conscience about what I said. Because it doesn't matter if it's him, it's my neighbor, or whoever's doing this. Folks, You may have heard me cussing before. You may see me in bad moods and whatnot. But my right hand is, I'm a faithful and I am loyal to God Almighty. And Jesus Christ went to the cross for me. He died for me. He shed his blood for my sins, and I accept that. I'm going to do everything in my power to follow the Lord and follow his commandments. Not just be a believer by, hey, you a Christian? Yeah, I'm a Christian. And you're going to catch me at the club getting drunk, falling down, and trying to go chase some skirt, trying to sleep with all the women I can sleep with, and go over here and do me a little bump of cocaine and get into all this other stuff. And I'm not saying you can't be a Christian and backslide. I mean, yeah, you can. But I'm telling you that the path that I'm on is that my kryptonite has been pornography. And let me tell you, these people know it, and they throw that in my face. But I tried to make it as clear to him that, sir, that there's no hard feelings. I mean, you just let this go. I'll let it go, and you can trust my word, man. I'm not going to come after you. I'm not going to pursue you legally or any other way. We'll just say it's done. I said there's nothing sweeter than settling a conflict with an enemy. Do you know how many warring tribes have slaughtered each other, and then at some point the leader of each tribe will come together while their tribe is over here of warriors and their tribe is over here of warriors, and then these two leaders will come that hate each other, and then they'll make a peace agreement, a truce agreement. They'll do some type of ceremony, maybe break some bread, drink some wine or something. And then they find out, why were we warring against each other? I like you. I like you. You're a good guy. You're not. Why were we doing this? Because I'm going to tell you, I met this guy. I've drank some beers with him. I had the utmost respect for this man. I mean, when guys talk about a man's man, that's the kind of guy that will get up and go to work. Doesn't matter if he's got a hangover. Doesn't matter if he's sick. He won't go to the hospital even if he's bleeding, even if he needs to. He's a get her done kind of guy. That's the kind of guy this is. This kind of guy, you shake his hand, and if you're pussed out, you got one of them limp-wristed shakes, he's going to break your hand. And I respected that. It was all I could do to shake his hand without him crushing it. And he could have crushed it. And I'm going to tell you something else about this guy, and I'm going to speak favorably of him. Speak favorably. In the beginning, when I was looking for a culprit, that who was doing this to me and why is this being done, I would occasionally think of him, and I would say, it cannot be him. It can't be him. And I said, why? Is because he's the kind of guy that would pick up the phone and go, Doug, we have a problem here. At least that was my impression of him. I thought that he would be the kind of guy that would, I'd open my door. Would you step outside? We need to have a discussion. And so I always kept saying, no, it's not him. It's not him. Can't be him. That's how high of a regard I had for this guy. But this other person kept warning me over and over and over. You never want to make him mad. You don't want to get on his bad side. And on the last day that I spoke with him, except for this one phone conversation that I had, his associate. And I don't want to bring in other people to this because it's not about me and these other people. It's me and him. And this other person said, you don't want to fuck with my dad. You don't want to fuck with him. And I already been told this many, many, many times. And I had no intentions of ever getting on his bad side. But it was just like this one thing that this one person had to tell me over and over, even on a day when we're just doing nothing out of the clear blue sky. You never want to make him mad. He knows a lot of people. He does. He does know a lot of people. Boy, does he know a lot of people. I'm sure a lot of people are intimidated by him too. You know, the guy, I'm sure he could kill a man with his bare hands. He's a brawler. He is one bad mofo. He really is. I would hate to go hand to hand with him. Any man probably would. He is very, very powerful, and he's very, very intimidating. But I cannot let that seep into my mind and override my faith in Christ, who tells me it doesn't matter how strong he is. Focus your eyes on me, Doug. Remember that little shepherd boy, David? Remember? Do you know why that story is told? That story is told for you and me. Everything that happens in the Bible that is told for inspiration, for a reason. A shepherd boy went up against Goliath, who was a giant, 7, 8, 9 feet tall, 300, 400, 500 pounds. When David walked onto the battlefield, everybody laughed. He took his slingshot, and with precision, and through the guidance of God Almighty, that rock left that sack, and it hit him between the eyes, and he had nothing else he could do but to fall backwards. That is God's way of telling you. Doesn't matter if that devil over there is the meanest person around. Doesn't matter if Satan's army is lined up against you. Doesn't matter if Pharaoh is behind you. It doesn't matter what's going on. You focus your eyes on me. You believe in me. I will deliver you. Don't you forget that. There are countless targeted individuals who will not leave their homes because they don't want to be targeted. They don't want to be harassed in public. It's too harmful for them. So they have groceries delivered to them. They have Amazon bring them what they want. They're on disability. They don't really have to go out and do anything because they're fearful of all these demonic people around. And I'm sad for them. And my heart aches for them as well. But we cannot let these people who does not have the Spirit of the Lord residing in them to have authority over us. No matter how intimidating, no matter how menacing they may be, and no matter how deadly they may be, we cannot do that. It says somewhere in Scripture, let me pull this up. It says somewhere in Scripture, I had to type in snakes and scorpions in the Bible. This is what the Lord says to us. I have given you authority to trample on snakes and scorpions and to overcome all the power of the enemy. Nothing will harm you. That was just not to the apostles. That message is for us today. God's not saying, hey, if you go outside, you're not going to get your feelings hurt. I'm going to protect your feelings. I'm going to wrap you up in a nice, warm, fuzzy blanket, and nobody's going to be able to say anything bad to you or try to make you feel bad. God doesn't say that. These people are going to be wicked. They're going to be evil. They're going to be demonic, and they're going to say bad things to you. And they may try to do bad things to you. But I can tell you this, people. I've had my life threatened many, many times indirectly. Walmart's going to kill him. Walmart's going to kidnap him. Walmart's going to kidnap him and take him to an abandoned warehouse where he'll call his friends and family over, and they'll break out a video camera and they'll record Walmart torturing him before they kill him. I was once painting a curb. Well, I was looking for one of my painter cards. You know, on the side of curbs, when you drive down the street, there's like either a white or black marker on some curbs. It was like 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, I used to do that when I was on disability to get extra cash for like $20. I used to paint those things. And there was one time that I was painting one, and I wasn't at a perp's house. But this guy worked in construction, like this guy that's stalking me works in construction, and all these construction guys knows each other. And so they know that I'm over there painting this guy's curb, his address on this curb. And this other dude pulls up the driveway, and he makes sure he's really loud. And he tells the guy, the owner of the curb, Walmart's going to kill him. Walmart's going to kidnap him. The same thing that I heard many, many times. This guy has it in for me. I have heard many times I'm going to be killed. I went to jail another time. I was actually withdrawing from Klonopin or Xanax, and I had the flu in 2008. And this was shortly after I left nursing. I got a really bad case of the flu. And I remember I had these brown sheets on this air mattress that I slept on. And I sweated so profusely that you could see the rings of salt, magnesium, sodium, potassium, all your body salts that are they make up your electrolytes. And there were rings around where I slept on this brown fitted sheet. And I lost so much electrolytes, and I wasn't eating. I became delirious. And as a result, they could sense through whatever technology they got, he's out of his mind. He's out of his mind. He's got the flu. He's got a high fever. He's got a fever or something. Let's attack him. So they hit me with R&M. And this is when I thought I was having a bipolar disorder, and it wasn't bipolar disorder. So I began walking around my neighborhood town square, and these voices were talking to me, and they kept telling me, go where the children are. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, you know where the kids are. I'm like, you're out of your freaking mind. Shut up. And I'm thinking, wow, so this is hallucinating. Whoop-de-doo. But the funny thing is, these voices had a southern accent. How in the hell does auditory hallucinations just have southern accents? Another thing that gave it away was you guys have heard of deep fake, to where you can take someone's image like this and change it to be something else. You can also take their voice and change it, as long as you have the source of a video or the source of an audio and you have that software program. You can program someone's voice to sound like anyone else. And so what they did was they took the voices of all the guys in Metallica and all the guys in Queensryche, which I was listening to these bands around this time, around 2007, 2008. And I spent the whole day thinking I'm hallucinating, and I wasn't. I was not hallucinating. They were doing V2K on me. And then this loop, this audio loop began. And this was stunning for me, because I'm like, if I'm hallucinating, why is my hallucination on a loop? Shouldn't it be a bunch of random stuff about demons and angels and God and the principalities of all these other things? Because like I told you guys, I got 7 years of mental health experience working at Rush State Hospital, Austin State Hospital, and Austin State School and other places. And I have encountered people who are actively hallucinating. And I've asked them, what do you hear? What do you see? And the things that I experienced was never anything what they experienced. So I heard this loop that started out like this. Doug, this is James Hetfield of Metallica. I don't want you listening to my music anymore. Doug, this is Lars Ulrich. I'm the drummer for Metallica. Don't listen to our music anymore. Hey, Doug, this is Kirk Hammett of Metallica. I don't want you listening to my music anymore. Then they went into Queensryche. This brings up a awesome story to tell you. The other day, I go to the grocery store, and I knew I was probably going to get gang stalked when I went into the store. And they always bring up something that is relative to something that I know. It's either mimicking me, making fun of me, or dredging up my past in some way and putting it into a skit or street theater. Now, there's 27 people watching right now. Most of you have heard of Metallica, but not every one of you are fans of Metallica or know much about the band. The lead guitar player is Kirk Hammett. He's kind of a tall guy, probably about maybe 5'8", 5'9", no, maybe 5'7", 5'8". He's got long curly black hair. He's got a peculiar mustache, the kind that you got to shave it just right to have that mustache on your lip only, not a full mustache. And in the 80s, he used to wear out these cut-out sleeveless shirts. That's what we wore back in the day. Like concert T-shirts with the sleeves cut out. He's wearing skinny jeans, and he's got a pair of high-top Reeboks with the Velcro that fastens over. These shoes came from 1985. This guy is in Super One Food in Walmart. I've been there 1,000 times. I go all over Tyler, driving mile after mile after mile after mile, and I have not seen a headbanger. Headbanger 1 representing 1987 and looking exactly like Kirk Hammett of Metallica. I should have took a picture of him, but this was like kind of early in my stalking. I'm like, I don't want to hurt his feelings. What if he's not really perping me? That would be kind of rude for me to do that. But after that, here's another thing that happened. This guy, he had to make sure he got in front of me in the checkout line. Here's something else that they were perping me. They were bringing up. These guys hear my conversations when I'm driving down the road. They know what perturbs me. And one of the things that perturbs me is, even if you're driving down the road and you take a little piece of trash and you throw it outside your window, that pisses me off. That really gets to me. There's no point in that. You can get a sack, put it in the sack and take it to the trash. Nobody needs your trash on the side of the road. So I comment about that every time I see it. Well, Kurt Hammett, he's in the line in front of me, checking out, and there's a couple other people. Everybody's wearing black, which, as you know, black represents death and funerals, and that everybody around me now is wearing black, and that is the signal to me I'm going to die, or I should get ready for my funeral. So Kurt Hammett goes ahead of me. How they got this guy, I mean, they really outdid themselves with this guy. Really outdid themselves, because I tell you what, if they were going to do a movie and they needed someone to play the part of Kurt Hammett, lead guitar Metallica, this was the guy. So this guy checks out. I get my stuff. I check out. Nobody else is perping me. And then as soon as I walk out the doors open up from this grocery store. And as the doors open up, and I'm expecting to get perked again. I'm expecting to see a skit or some street theater. Lo and behold, a man gets, an elderly man, he's probably in his 80s. He gets out of his car at the same time I'm walking through those double doors. Timed it perfectly. He gets out of his car, he's got paper towels in his hand, and he drops them just like that. It's not like sniffle, 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 drop. It's like, I got it in this hand, let's just go ahead and drop it. And he's looking at me like he's a bot, like he's under mind control. So this whole thing about the hive mind that DB keeps talking about on DB gang stalking, I wasn't sold on that. And I'm going to tell you straight up, DB, it's not that I doubted you, it's just I couldn't wrap my head around it. But I am seeing things. I'm seeing things that are woo, Lulu. Folks, I'm going to have to wrap this up. I've been doing this for 3 hours and 41 minutes and 57 seconds. I want to take a little bit of time and read some of these comments because I've not read a single one. But I'm going to tell you that I have got a ton of video and photographs, license plates, and I'm going to continue to catch these people and put them on YouTube. I know I'm being a hypocrite because in the past I said, I don't care what they do. I'm not going to focus on it. But this stuff is so bizarre and it's so blatant and it's so in my face. I'm like, let's just go ahead and do this. If this is what you want to do and you don't care if I catch your information, I'm going to do it. Most of you wasn't around earlier, but let me tell you something. I went to the grocery store today to get a Gatorade and a few other items, and I knew when I came out of those double doors, there was going to be a spotter in the parking lot. Sure enough, about 150 yards away was probably a Klan member in a white GMC, and there was no license plate on the front of the vehicle. In the state law in the state of Texas, you have to have a front license plate. Well, I went around him, and I noticed he had a temporary tag. And this is his temporary tag license plate, which expired in September of 2021. And it was 155607F. This is a white GMC SUV with a missing front license plate. I got him on video. I got him captured on photography. And as I'm passing by him, he's looking at me like, what? And I'm like, you're gang stalking me, dude. And his what wasn't like a genuine, like, what are you doing, man? Are you out of your mind? It was like, what? What? Because as I'm in my car, driving close to his vehicle, his eyes are on me. Got my shades on. As I'm passing by, I'm not turning my head to look at him, But I'm driving my vehicle in such a way that I can look out of the corner of my dark shades and he can't see me. And what's his head doing? Watching me. Another one of his brothers, when I pulled into the store, he was sitting in a white truck, another planned vehicle. And he was trying to pretend like he's incognito. And see, what they don't understand is I know these people want to see him. So I'm driving by. This guy's doing the same thing. I'm driving by. He could be in his car, reading the newspaper in the car, playing with his phone, in the car on the phone, not even worried about me or anybody else because he's focused on something else. But you know when you're being gang stalked that you become the center of attention. And the best way to not let them know anything is just to wear some shades in public. And don't make it obvious that you know that it's them until you want to let them know. Because these people don't go to perp school. They're not schooled on what to say. They're just told, hey, be out in public and look out for that guy in the black car and perping. Folks, this is going to do it for this segment. I thank you guys for sticking around. Let me read some comments. Man, these comments, there's hundreds of them. Tanner, Missy, Tanner, plausible deniability. Yes, they have killed targeted people in the past. I don't doubt that. The Phoenix, what I meant was don't live in fear because they will use your fear against you. Yeah, that's exactly what they want. That's what the devil wants. The devil wants you to be fearful of him. I don't fear the devil. I fear the Lord. I fear the Lord. And the devil can't take me without the Lord's consent. It is written in Scripture that a sparrow does not fall to the ground without the consent of the Father. And if God is aware that there's a sparrow whose time has come and he's going to chirp his last bird song, God knows about it. And it doesn't happen without his consent. How more are we precious to him than sparrow? Okay, I'm just going to mention names. Chris Leeworthy, thanks. Larry Jones, thanks. Chris, no whining, thanks. The Phoenix, thanks. No whining, thanks. M. Tanner, Cramner, thanks. The Phoenix. Scott Schmer, thank you. DMC. RJM Station, I want to thank all you people for tuning in tonight. And the Lord willing, I'll be here tomorrow and I'll be posting more and more stuff about this. I'm going to expose it. What they want me to do is to come into my apartment and to cower in fear and hide because they're telling me they're going to kill me. I don't care. I don't care. My faith is in Jesus Christ. And when it's my time to go, it's my time to go. Peace to y'all, and thanks for watching and subscribing. May God keep you and bless in each and every one of you. Good night.